Okay, go live. Okay, I should be live. Hopefully no one heard me yelling at myself and calling myself an idiot. It was before I pushed the button, but you never know. Come on, Mike. There we go. Okay. Jeez, the chat's been busy. What the hell, you guys? What is, okay, never mind. The display looks weird to me, but, I don't know. I guess it's fine. Marooned on top of the hill. Everything is silent for the cat. Hi, Mr. Roboto. Oh, you saw the first Silent Hill movie? Was not bad, I disagree. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Kura. The second movie connects to the first by pretending to correct it with names and completely changing the story. Hi, Sod. Oops. Yeah, that was weird. They clearly didn't know what they were doing there. Let me look at something over here. Oh, I see what I was looking at. Okay, yeah, the display's fine. I just had it set up weird. I had a feeling it was something like that. Room of Angels started playing on your playlist. Okay, just to give you guys something to watch while I'm getting caught up on the chat, here's another little Miri video. She's so cute. We get to see her chitter at birds this time. This is just while I'm getting caught up on the chat. Look at, I love the face she makes. She looks like she's laughing. Okay. Check if you can open your doors and windows. Was I late? I probably was a few minutes late. I thought I was all ready, and then I discovered, I realized that I didn't even boot up Streamlabs. I was like, okay, I'm ready to stream. Oh shit, I have to boot up Streamlabs and put the information in it and all that shit. He's regular iron now. Now I'm up to the part where I was actually live. Shame there isn't a Christmas-themed version of Silent Hill like there is with Nights. A Christmas Hill. Monsters walking around in Santa hats. Hi, Special Iron. Hi, Sarah. We're all idiots. Well, at least I'm in good company. Hi, Scott. God, I haven't done pixels as big as cats in a long time. I keep meaning to. I think it'd be good to... It might work for the shorts format, but I don't know if I could get them down to a minute. Some of them are pretty short, but I don't know if I could make them that short. A Special Iron is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. The game, Dina. Look at that face. Oh my god, she's so cute. She reminds me a little of Tara. That's what makes Special Iron so special. Hang on, hang around for the after credit sequence. Oh, hi Timmer. Hi Julia. We had a cat who would stand at the screen door and make odd clicking noises whenever he saw birds outside. Tara does that sometimes when I'll actually, like in the morning, like I'll pick up my phone and sometimes like the light from the window will reflect off of it and make a little shape on the wall. And she'll go crazy and start chittering. It's so cute. Used to chitter at ceiling fans. Cats are the best, I swear to God. Playing Pokemon while you watch me watch Silent Hill stuff. Streamed with the mic off a few times. I've done it too, or I've started to. I wonder if the Christmas-themed Silent Hill would be called Silent Night. Oh, that'd be perfect. Pixels as big as souls. Those would be some really big pixels. Yeah, I saw that you watched Silent Hill, the movie. I reacted to that. Okay. I'm almost caught up here. Pyramid Head is Santa. Honeying trees for a Heracross? I have no idea what any of that means. I didn't think the Silent Hill movie was cerebral at all, honestly. It was kind of like all... it was all style and no substance. All the symbolism was just copied from the game, so it didn't really do anything interesting with it. Funny thing about that is that Neo Bogart has the exact same syllable as Frodo Baggins. That does make it work a little better. Walter Sullivan is Santa. You made food, and as soon as it was ready, I went live. That's awesome. Hi, Red Spade. I don't think I saw you comment before. The laser pointer. No, I don't have one of those. I used to have one. I think I used to get Luna to play with it, but I don't... God, do I even still have one? Maybe that was in Memphis. Maybe it wasn't ours. Maru is so chonk. He really is. Velociraptor eyes. Yes, she does kind of have those. Hi, Living Corpse. I don't think I saw you comment before. No, I'm not getting a new apartment yet. Probably, we're going to try to do that in April, I think. We were going to move to Washington and try to live in a hotel until we got an apartment there, but that just seems too risky, and we're too low on money to make that work, so... Hopefully we'll be getting jobs soon, and we'll be able to save up and get an apartment in Washington before we move there. If a streamer is extra quiet, usually without a camera, I make it a habit to ask if the mic is on. Yeah. Silent Night, I'm now having one of those why didn't I think of that moments. Time to watch Dina drool over Murphy for an hour. No, that was last week. Next video might be the top 10 about Silent Hill 2. Yep. Yeah, well, top 5, but yeah. Pyramid Head with a white fur trimmer on the edge of his helmet. Oh, crap. I mean, the bugs were just taken from the games. It was kind of cool that they had little faces on them. The walking armless faceless thing, I mean, that was just taken from Silent Hill 2. It does look kind of cool seeing it in live action because they did a good job with the special effects, but it's not particularly deep or anything. Would you say yes to a Silent Hill 3 as in a movie? No. Silent Hill RPG. Maybe that's what launches the mannequin monsters into the roads in the second game. Okay, let's get started here. I should have just enough time to do this. After a certain point, I started starting every video with that tune.
Hey, this is Dina. Well, I keep saying I'll talk about the first Silent Hill game, but I've already had to move
Hi, Angelo.
this year, and so I just have not had time to make a proper Game Den episode. So what could I talk about that wouldn't have to be a big multi-part video? As you may remember,
Bugs with faces makes me think of the frogs in Terraform that say useless.
As I kind of alluded
There
to
actually,
in that
I
video,
think there
I
were
felt
like
I was
roaches
supposed to
with
have watched
had
this
Rimmer's
movie
mom's
years
face on them, and
ago.
that
A
did
lot
make me
fans
think of the
liked that
Silent Hill
movie for some
movie.
reason, so I tried to tread carefully and tried to be as
Yeah, they should make an
kind as
actual
possible.
Silent Hill movie, not one that's just
That's not
called
gonna
Silent
happen
Hill
this
and has
time.
fuck all to do with the
Well, I
games.
thought the first movie was bad and a very misguided attempt at a Silent Hill movie. It doesn't really reach Catwoman levels of train wreck bad. It's just all style and no substance, basically. It looks pretty, it has a great atmosphere, it's shot well, and the monsters look really good. But when you really break it down, it is a bad movie. But the sequel? This was a second attempt at a Silent Hill movie. It had a
Oh, the
chance to
video's a
learn
little
from the
quiet.
first movie's mistakes and make things better.
Huh.
It
It's
couldn't
turned
go
all the
back
way
in
up.
time and fix the first movie, but it could have been smart about it and just taken it in a better and more Silent Hill-like direction. Instead, it went
I'll
the
turn this
opposite
up a little
way,
bit, but I'll
completely into train wreck territory.
hopefully it won't get too
Even
loud
fans
later.
of the first movie don't like the sequel.
Is that
The
better?
movie is awful, period. I promise I'm not exaggerating, but in theater, I laughed during a lot of it. I laughed! This is a movie that is based on a franchise that is
Watch my videos on Silent Hill 2. I talk about that in there.
And they missed the mark so far that the end result is hilarious. And I wish I could say I found it enjoyable in an ironic way because of that, but I don't. It just hurts my brain. that they
Silent
managed
Hill
to fuck
sexy
it up
nurse
so
called
bad.
HR
It's like
complaining
I have
about
to laugh
constant
so I don't cry.
catcalling.
But what is it about this movie that makes it so bad? Well, I almost feel like I'm shooting fish in a barrel here, but like I did with the first movie,
Shooting fish in
I've
a
narrowed it
barrel.
down to 5 overall points. And once again, yes, only 5, but they are 5 big things.
Number 5.
Shameless enough to think the Pyramid Head versus Missionary fight was
A
cool.
lot of the complaints
Nah.
I had about the first movie not only showed up in the sequel, but were cranked up to 11. One of the big ones is the lack of subtlety and a general feel of how this movie is just trying too damn hard. I mean, the first time Heather ends up in the other world, one of the first things we see is a living victim hung upside down while a butcher cuts a thick slice of flesh from his stomach and cooks it. And yes, I am actually
Is it still
censoring this for
echoey?
anyone
Because
who
I
doesn't
don't.
have the stomach
This is kind of the
left
best I can do, I think.
I still protest about an excess of gore and torture and anything Silent Hill related because I don't think it
That
fits the
took a lot of
general feel
editing
the
there.
games that happened before the first movie. But also, it is completely gratuitous here. This happens right after Heather is watching a birthday party where people are eating burgers and then suddenly they're eating bloody viscera. What the hell is that supposed
What
to
the fuck even
symbolize?
was that?
Unless Heather is an ethical vegan in this movie and thinks
They
meat
put
is
makeup
murder,
on
there's
someone
no
and had her go-
obvious imagery, except that the director
They really
managed
thought that
to
was going to be
include it
disturbing. Who
because,
the
yay,
fuck
gore.
directed this? I want to smack
Other
them.
than that, there are flashbacks added of when Alessa was burned. I don't know if you noticed, but she actually doesn't move at all in the first movie. And we actually get to see her writhe in agony this time.
Oh, it was a leech
Thanks,
that had
that was
Rimmer's
totally
mom's face.
necessary.
Okay. That
Also,
still
this
made me
time
think
they
of the
added
Silent Hill
jump
movie.
scares. Lots and lots of jump scares. Nothing actually made me jump because
were
they
so
set up
stupid.
in such obvious ways.
Those jump
I pretty
scares.
much always saw them coming. It's like, oh, there's the Robbie the Rabbit costume for Silent Hill 3. I wonder when it'll suddenly turn its head and look at the camera. There we go. And then, of course, there's this
Oh, the Pop-Tart.
thing, which I think is supposed to make us jump and then laugh at ourselves for jumping. Well, it didn't work. It's
God,
just
this
the
movie's
most
just
blatant
fucking
example of
embarrassing,
this
isn't
movie
it?
trying
God, I
to
can't even
scare
believe
us
how
and
bad it is.
failing. We're laughing at the movie and not with it.
Well, I mean, unless I
I'll
put
recommend saying
headphones
that I
on,
just
like,
don't
this is the
like
best I can
3D
do.
gimmick in general. I don't like having things shoved in my face. And a Silent Hill movie definitely doesn't need to have anything like that. Now, when Heather goes to the town and we see some of the ash falling in the foreground,
The video's
or
very
in the
muffled and
background,
quiet.
it's
Really?
very, yeah.
Well, I don't know why it would be. Let me... What the fuck? I guess I'll turn desktop audio all the way up. I hope it doesn't drown me out.
Actually does add some depth, and it's kind of cool. But for the most part, it just used the 3D aspect to basically be all in your face, as obnoxious about it as possible, with dismembered body
Nice use
parts
of
flying to the
censorship,
camera.
yeah.
You gotta be shitting me. Number 4.
I've said this before, but one thing the first
Would have been
movie
more disturbing if
absolutely
they'd
nailed
casually
was the
been eating.
visuals.
Yeah,
the monsters looked
that's
great,
a good
the sets
point.
looked great, and it was generally
Like maybe if
shot
they
well.
didn't know they were
You
eating
could tell
human
that a
flesh
lot
or
of love
something,
and
that
hard work
that
was
would
put
have been
into
more
those
disturbing.
aspects. Really, my main complaint about the first movie is that that's just not enough. It needed to have a good story and not rely on gore and shock so much. Silent Hill is not just about pretty visuals. But the second movie did not even have
Second
that
movie was
going
way too
for
gory, it really
Just about
was.
all
I
the
mean, I
monsters from
don't
the
think
first
that was
movie
the
showed
worst
up
thing
again.
about it, but that
Looked
is
just
one
as
issue.
Good, but that's nothing new. Most other monsters are mainly regular people with messed up faces, again, usually used as
Silent
jump
Hill 1
scares.
ending meant
They
let's
look
leave it open
convincing
for a
enough.
sequel.
It's just that it's not that impressive compared to what we saw in the first movie. Then we have the CG mannequin
I think the
monster,
idea was
which
supposed to be
just
that
looks
like
very
they were still
CG
trapped in
and
Silent Hill, but
convincing to me.
kind of
Not to
able
mention that
to
it doesn't
interact with the
scare
real
me, I
world,
just
but
think
nobody
it's
could see them or
obnoxious.
something. I don't
I mean,
know.
I realize
don't
that
really
it's made out
care.
of plastic, so maybe this is as realistic as it could have gotten. But it just doesn't
Yes, the
work.
Pop-Tart
I am
jump
speaking
scare.
as someone with a pretty intense fear of spiders, and this thing just does not trigger that. Ironically, one of the monsters from Silent Hill 3 ended
Yeah,
up
you
being
know a
human
spider
for
is
most of
lame
this
when it
part of
doesn't even scare me.
Revelation. Of course, I'm talking about Leonard, who
That's
is
how you know
actually
you've made
brilliantly
a
played by
bad
Malcolm
spider.
McDowell.
Hello, child.
I'll get more into that later. But again, I'm not all
Long
that
man
impressed by him
candy
as a monster
ad.
once
I
that
fucking love
happens.
those ads.
Although his face reminds me of the terror mask from Splatterhouse, which is kind of interesting. One thing this movie is lacking is the way the first one kind of reveled in
I remember the
pretty
Pop-Tart
environments.
jump scare.
Actually
That was when
really
I knew
dig
for
shots
sure I
like
wasn't
this
going to like it.
There's no dialogue here, just
Yeah.
music and visuals.
Well, I hope
and you're
the
just kinda
audio's
left to
okay
just
now,
take
because
it
I've
all
turned the
in.
desktop audio all the way up. I can't imagine it isn't too loud for you guys, but you all told me to turn it up, so
There was nothing like this in the sequel. Like I said, the 3D effect of the falling
I bet
cast
this movie was
neat.
made on a dare.
And also this shot of Harry disappearing into the fog at the end.
It's
looked
not
kinda
drowning me
neat,
out?
too.
Okay, good.
Plus, I like the camera movement here.
It's safer to be inside.
Heather is
But for the
Alessa.
most part,
That's
the
how she
environments
connects.
are just there and aren't especially
Or,
interesting
well,
like
Cheryl,
the
I
first.
guess, in this case.
Most of the time, the
Sharon,
movie's
sorry.
trying to cram exposition down your throat as fast as possible. No time to take anything else.
I've literally said everything about the movie I want to say.
3.
You're not going to get, like, any kind of
With the
information
first
out of me
movie
about
not really
it.
following the original game,
I've done
I
my time.
realized that trying to
I've
continue
moved on.
the first movie's plot and adapt Silent Hill 3 all in one movie is not the easiest task. But I do believe it could have worked if they had just not focused on the first movie so much and not tried
Pop-Tarts?
to
They look
retcon
like
in a
Pop-Tarts to
misguided
you?
attempts to please fans of the games. The most blatant one is where Dahlia shows up and is all, no, see, they didn't actually want...
Fails as a
Alessa,
sequel
they
and an
actually wanted to
adaptation.
impregnate her. Blah, blah, blah.
Sorry
Silent
there's
Hill
lag
3
once in a
plot
while. I'm not
somewhat.
sure what that's all about.
No, bullcrap. The first movie is pretty clear about why they wanted Baked Alessa.
Baked
It was a
Alessa.
stupid and cliche reason, but it
It's
was
awful,
there.
but I kinda
And
like
this scene
that-
is fairly
I kinda like that,
inconsequential aside from trying to please the
term.
fans. They could have kept it the way the first movie had it, and it wouldn't have really changed much of anything in this one. Also, there's visual things like Dark Alessa looking different. Not to mention that she shouldn't exist anyway, since she merged with Sharon at the end of the first movie. Who also shouldn't be there are the townspeople. It could be that maybe a few survived, but this movie makes it look like the slaughter at the end of the first movie never even happened since they all appear to still be there. Also, they seem to have missed the fact that Dahlia and Christabella were
Yeah, the mannequin
sisters.
monster was a cool concept.
sister. You always will.
Because in this movie, they have Claudia and Christabella being sisters,
What my sister Christabella could not achieve, I shall.
which would also make Claudia and Dahlia sisters, which would also make Heather and Vincent cousins. You know, the two main characters in this movie who have a budding romance.
Excuse
Wow,
me.
that is so sloppy. I could see something like that happening before the invention of TV.
Can't
and
go wrong with
internet,
Malcolm
when people only
McDowell,
saw
yeah.
movies in the theaters, and audiences might have forgotten details.
He kind of
like that.
elevates the
There's
scene a
no
little
excuse
bit,
for
but
that
not
in this
much.
day and age. Do your damn homework, directors. Jesus. There's other stuff too, but this is just the stuff that really
little
jumped
loud?
out at me.
I'll turn it
Go
down
to
a
the
tiny
Silent Hill
bit then.
wiki for a complete list. And I know you may be saying, but Dina, you hated the first movie. Why do you care if the sequel retcons it? Like I said, it's sloppy. The damage had already
Cat,
been
or
done
I mean
with the first
Pop-Tart.
movie. If you're not going to reboot it, find a way to work around it without cheating. Also, the
My
director
favorite
had
pony is
previously
Rarity.
stated that they were first and foremost making a sequel to the first movie. They were not changing anything in it, and adapting
Rainbow
Silent
Dash is
Hill
a
3
close
was
second.
secondary. So it's kind of weird that the opposite ended up happening.
number 2.
I kind of let this one go when I talked about the first movie, but I guess it would have been number 6 on my list.
Revelations
Since it
is
was
just
only
like a
the one
bad
character
boyfriend.
and
You
I
have
considered the
memories
other
of
ones
it,
to be more important.
but you eventually move on and
Talking
never
about
look
Dahlia,
back.
they made up this
Yeah,
completely
both
different
Silent Hill movies
character
are
and
like
just
that for
slapped
me.
Dahlia's name on her,
They hurt my child. They did terrible things to her.
which is weird because Christabella is almost playing Dahlia's role in this movie.
Yep.
The demon! The demon!
The demon taking that child's form.
But for whatever reason, they wanted Alessa's mother to be a sympathetic character. Whatever.
Did
In
the third
sequel,
hurt or help
the
the
ending
second
only
Silent Hill?
applies to
I mean,
two
neither
main
one. They
characters
weren't
who
really
happen to be two of
connected.
my favorite characters in the whole
Story-wise.
franchise, instead of just an antagonist. And this movie kind of touts itself as being a Silent Hill 3 adaptation, so I put it a little higher on the list this time.
Remember me, and your true self as well.
I don't know that I was expecting much from
I think you
Claudia
mean
in this
Harold
movie.
Hasten.
In Silent
That
Hill
was
3, she comes across as just evil in the
Yeah.
beginning, but the more she shows up, the more you learn about her. It turns out that she had a horrible childhood, with the only bright spot being her best friend Alessa. Alessa, who ended up being sacrificed by the cult because they needed her to be used as a vessel to birth their god. Meanwhile, Claudia became more and more influenced.
the moment
by
I knew
cult
that
and
was supposed to be
decided she needed
Vincent is
end
when I
all the
decided I
suffering
didn't
in
want to
the world.
watch it at all. Yeah, you made a good choice.
Everyone dies, but then everyone ends up in paradise, all
Twice
saved
big
and
to
happy.
Alessa.
She makes this amazing speech toward the end where she admits that what she's doing to Alessa, who is now Heather, is
Twilight,
horrible.
Fluttershy, and
Even though
Pinkie
she
Pie. I
thinks
mean,
it's
there aren't any
necessary,
ponies
she
I
also believes
dislike.
that
It's
she will
just
not be forgiven, and she is totally okay with that.
I just really like Rarity and
Even if
Rainbow
it
Dash.
was to save mankind.
I think they're the ones that I identify with the most. I can see a lot of myself in Twilight and
Basically
Fluttershy,
condemning her
though.
own soul to save everyone else's. Really heavy stuff. This is what I love.
Hi,
about Claudia.
George.
She comes across as evil on the surface. Not only her appearance, but
Pop
the fact
scare.
that she had
It's something
Harry
that tries
Mason,
to be a jump scare
Heather's
but doesn't
dad,
quite
son of
work.
The one protagonist killed. But she turns out to be someone who really only wants to do good by other people, even if her
Pop Tart
methods
was
are so
clearly the true
misguided that it
antagonist of the Silent Hill movies.
I didn't expect her to have that kind of complexity in the movie.
Animated
especially
films.
since
Yeah,
they
that could
established
work
in
if
the first
it.
movie
They'd have to be
Alessa
really
didn't
well
have any
animated,
friends,
but
and of course there was no mention of Claudia before her appearance in this movie.
Your mind is corrupted by her darkness.
So yeah, movie Claudia isn't all that interesting. She's got the
They have a
fanaticism,
statue
and
of
there's a scene
Valtiel,
where
that
she's
makes
doing
up for everything.
Shakespearean monologuing like she does in the game.
The god can only be born
What is the matter
through your
with
flesh.
And I have to give Carrie Ann Moss credit for managing to have a great presence.
Hang on, I
and
have
just
to go pet this
projecting
kitty.
well.
To cleanse the world of its sins.
Not unlike Claudia in the game did. But she's lacking the depth of the character from the game. She's basically Claudia from Silent Hill 3 before we learn anything about her. Also, she's been aged up since she's supposed to be old enough to be the mother of Heather's love interest. Oh yeah, I am definitely gonna go into that.
this is what Tara does
The
sometimes.
effect
She
is that
wakes
kind
up
of
and
looks
just
like a
just
Halloween witch. No offense toward
starts
Carrie
telling
Ann
me to
Moss
pet
at
her.
all. She looked totally hot in the Matrix movies, but that long frizzy white hair is not doing her any favors. Also, rather than wearing the black coat and long skirt combo from the games, she's wearing this floor-length white gown, which is really similar to an early character design for Claudia in the game.
pissed that
Not
Douglas
sure why
gets
they went
killed
with
early
that.
on. It's just a
actually
cameo.
really
I know
nice
he
looking.
really
It has a
doesn't
lot
do
of neat
anything.
little
He
details
he
on it,
drops
but
some
she kind of looks like she's on her way to
he
a
drops some
Renaissance fair or
exposition and then he
something.
dies.
It's a little weird. Not necessarily bad, but weird. Don't even get me started on her being the missionary, though actually I'm gonna get into that later too.
Hello.
You have an ex-friend who likes the movies
way,
and thinks
Leonard
they're good.
also
Well, I can
gets
see why they're
eaten
your
over
ex-friend.
A lot of fans were annoyed by the fact that he was human, but I never thought he was actually a monster in the game anyway. That's just how Heather saw him, since he didn't actually show himself until after he started showing the monstrous side of his personality through his monologue.
Death to all who turn their backs on God.
It ties into this famous comment.
Years
by
ago,
Vince
someone put together a list of names and you had to decide whether they belonged to My Little Pony or porn actresses.
So yeah, I'm okay with Leonard looking human.
Can we
In
just
fact,
have a
with
damn
Big
Silent
Malcolm
Hill movie
McDowell,
that's
I
actually
can see
based
why
off
they'd
the
want to
first
show his
game? I
face.
know.
Now, I see the truth.
I wouldn't use the script from the game.
You're a demon!
But yeah, you could pretty closely base it off the game
I'm
and it
actually
would
kind of
probably
jazzed
work.
about him playing Leonard when I first heard about it.
I talked
mainly
about that
because
when
I
I
thought
talked
he would
about
be
the
playing
first
Leonard
movie.
From the games. You know, that
Mom, I
really
had a
fanatical guy
nightmare.
with scary voice
It
who
is
goes
kind of
out
like
to
that.
long
She just
maneuvers.
wakes up and starts crying like a little
You plan
infant.
to destroy God.
I told you
I know
I don't
the
really
voice
know
actor
anime
kinda
studios.
hammed it up, but I honestly
Well, I know
felt it suited
Gynax, that's the
character.
only one.
Same with Claudia. They're both kind of dramatic and Shakespearean.
I was appointed by God to be its guardian.
Malcolm McDowell playing that guy would have been awesome.
Claudia's like Miss
Instead,
Carmody
he's a
from The
messed
Mist.
up,
Oh yeah,
crazy blonde
kinda.
guy who Claudia has locked up and experimented on.
My own daughter says I'm corrupted by the darkness. She says
Till you pointed out, I
I'm
never
a
would have guessed she's
monster.
Carrie Ann Moss.
She's far worse than I am.
He's actually an okay character in his own right. Definitely creepy, but
Come closer so I can touch you.
Tara, pet me now, I'm cute.
I really wish they followed Silent Hill 3 with this one.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you.
Sorry, what?
Are you okay?
Also, I'll really quickly mention Douglas. I actually liked him during the small amount of screen time. he
Part of
got.
it's 'cause I
He's
just
maybe
like
a
the
little
actor. I've
young,
seen
but
him in
he
other
just kind
things.
of reminds me of Douglas from the game somehow.
My name is Douglas Cardlin. I'm a private investigator.
I don't know that he's
Unfortunately,
really
they
that
try to
much
have
like
him
Douglas
cram
from the
in a lot
games,
of
but he would have
exposition in a
worked.
small amount of time, and then he immediately gets killed off. So, yeah, way to go, movie. They really could have just left him out. Well,
Why
I'm
so many
saving the worst for last.
video game
Here
movies are
goes.
so bad outside of the Uva
As
Bowl?
I've
I made
mentioned
these
in the
movies to
Game
get
Den
tax
episode
breaks
of Silent Hill
movies.
3, and probably at some point in the horror cast, I love Vincent. As I've said, he and Claudia are two of my
Newsflash,
favorite
Dina
characters
likes
in all of
Vincent.
Silent Hill. He doesn't have that kind of depth that Claudia has, and he definitely doesn't garner much sympathy.
Great cast in this
but
train
he's
wreck
just
of a
really
movie, I
fun
know.
character.
I fear her, and I adore her. But I haven't lost my mind like you.
Come here.
Think
I
that
try to
this
read
is
the
work
chat.
of God?
He is that guy who just kind of sits back and watches everything. He doesn't get directly involved enough to get his hands dirty, but he tries to manipulate things from behind the scenes.
Heather, go ahead and kill this crazy bitch. This demon who claims to speak for God.
He's
Well, I don't
kind
think
of a
Leonard
coward,
had any
but
kind
he's
of
also
transformation
kind of awesome
ability.
in a
I think
way.
the
He knows
the
exactly what's going
silent.
on, and
I
he's
think the
too
town
cool
just
to
made him
reveal
into a
much of it.
monster, or
You know everything.
maybe Heather
Tell me
only
how
saw
I
him
can
as a
fit into
monster.
this.
Not yet.
Hi, Flash.
Why not? Enjoy
26
yourself
isn't
a
bad.
bit longer.
It's not as many as
Also,
I've had the
again,
last
he
couple
says
weeks,
this
though.
awesome line.
Monsters. They look like monsters.
This movie is laughably bad.
Don't worry. It's just a joke.
I have to find something good in a bad movie.
Interpret it however you want, but you
know
cannot
how that
deny
is.
that it got your attention. And there's some interesting symbolism with him that I think I hadn't picked up on when I covered Silent Hill 3 on the Game Den. He has bad teeth. See, he's well dressed and looks all nice and polished.
Does
on
he
the
sound like
outside,
Douglas?
but when
I guess he
smiles,
does.
You see that bad part of himself.
I think he's a little younger than Douglas in the games, but yeah, like I said, I think he would have worked if he had more than like 5 minutes of screen time.
So yeah, Vincent is not a deep and complex character like Claudia, but he's
At least they didn't
intriguing.
use bonus costume Douglas.
I'm not finished talking.
You know what's not intriguing? A teenage love interest.
Are you kidding me? I can't follow that.
Okay, I'll be fair. He's not as bad in the movie as I thought he was going to be. Before the movie came out, they were describing Vincent as being a guy from Heather's school, and I expected the worst. But it turned out that he is at least a cult member in the movie, so Heather has reason not to trust him. But of course, he is still a 17-year-old kid, he's still a love interest, and the movie tries to make him into a whoopee with how he's so tortured but still a good person, blah blah blah.
Torture, but
The
still a
funny
good
part is that
person,
the
blah
director
blah blah.
apparently thought this was an improvement. Apparently, he just thought of Vincent in Silent Hill 3
He
as
wore
someone who
pants
didn't
for
really
one
do
thing.
much of anything, and that he used this as an opportunity to do something more
Absolute
interesting.
favorite.
So this,
It's just endless.
He's definitely a
stories all
favorite.
piled on top of each other. Some people see monsters. Other people just.
Vincent
see
just kissed Claudia already.
For that.
My
Go
mother.
ahead and kill this crazy
He's more
movie, this
interesting
Hollywood
than this.
adaptation that claims to speak for games.
They look like monsters.
I'll just play Silent Hill 3 for the 19th time.
I got nothing.
No.
It's just a joke, the plot of the movie.
Okay, this is sort of the in-name only argument.
Yeah, I
again,
know that
but there's
Christabella
way
came from
more
the
to it.
comics. That's pretty
I'm
weird.
not going to go into why Pyramid Head shouldn't be in anything.
I don't know if
outside
that's
of Silent Hill 2,
intentionally a
because
reference,
not only
but-
have I already covered it, I've pretty much run it into the ground. But if you really want to know my thoughts on that, go watch the video I made about the first movie, starting at about 7 minutes in. Also,
I
he
believe
was in the
Leonard only
first
appears as a
movie, so I
monster
sorta
because
get
it's like
them bringing
Vincent
him
teased.
back
They
for
look
the
like
sake of
monsters to you.
continuity.
Yeah, that was the impression I got
Even
too.
though he's basically replacing Valtiel, and I would rather have seen him in the movie, I still sort of get it. But they basically made him a good guy. And again, I sort of get him being Alessa's protector. The first movie made it seem like he's being controlled by Alessa, or his actions were triggered by her emotions, something like that. But that doesn't make it any less fucking stupid.
That doesn't make it any less fucking
stupid. The creature that was
stupid.
originally created to symbolize a man's sexual frustration is now a young girl's protector. Does no one see anything wrong with that? But yeah. Pyramid Head is Godzilla now.
The town over time changed Leonard physically into the monster that he acted like. That could be it too. Yeah, the point I was just trying to make is I'm fine with him being human because I figured he was human to begin with, or, you know, whatever, however you want to look at it.
Oh boy. Well, first let me talk about the missionary. Wait, not that one. Yeah, that one.
Yes, that's Kit Harington as Vincent.
Instead of Claudia sending the missionary after Harry, like in the game,
my voice reminded you of Droopy.
Which doesn't make sense, because if she's the leader of this cult, why is she doing all her own dirty work? That means that she went out and killed Douglas herself, and
Is all people who go to Silent Hill go there in their sleep? No.
Despite the fact
I never got that
cult
impression.
members are supposed to be able to leave Silent Hill, hence why Vincent had to get that nifty tattoo.
Vincey must have took a bath in a fountain of youth.
The story of the first movie or Silent Hill 3. But really the main issue I have with
Tara,
the missionary
God.
is that it doesn't look like anything that could have come out of Silent Hill. It's just completely the wrong style. It's too humanoid looking, it kind of looks like a dominatrix, and from what I can tell, it doesn't really symbolize anything. However, it does look like whoever designed it was a big Hellraiser fan. She basically looks like an amalgam of
And this is what got me to rewatch the Hellraiser movies, putting that image together.
Although I get where they're going with her in a way. On one hand, you have Pyramid Head.
Adaptations? They look like adaptations to you?
So to offset that, you have the missionary who is smaller and faster, and while she also has a blade, it's not as big as his. But here's where the shit really hits the fan.
Silent Hill 1 is the only one where the monsters don't reflect the player character? No.
Battle at the end. And it just
Silent Hill 4,
awesome, yet it just falls flat
they were
on
about
its face.
Walter.
It's just painful to watch for all the wrong
Silent Hill
reasons.
2, they were probably more likely
Despite how
about
stupid
Mary
this
than
premise
James,
is,
although they
it
could
actually
have partly been
a
about
good way to
James.
show how fast and efficient of a killer the missionary is. We've seen her kill people, but seeing her go up against something really big and powerful could have been cool. But she really doesn't move that fast.
The
and
movie
doesn't
made
really
Leonard
come
human
across
at first
that
as a way
impressive,
to
despite getting a
ham-fistedly
couple really
foreshadow
nasty
Claudia
blows.
being the
The
missionary.
choreography just isn't that interesting.
I don't know about
I
that.
think we're supposed to kind of see it this way.
Pyramid Headzilla. This was kind of pointless. I don't know why I edited the battle to make it look cooler. Crap, I hope I don't get dinged for that. Using that music, I
honestly
mean.
just see it like this.
Pyramid Head, I choose you. Linkara helped me a bit with this because I asked him what the most recent Pokemon game was, and I don't know, he suggested that I base it off of a specific Pokemon game because I've never really played them.
Back to normal for some reason. Harry decides to go back to try to find Rose while leaving his daughter with a guy.
So I think I have Linkara credited as like Pokemon advisor or something like that, Pokemon expert.
And Travis
I don't
shows
remember.
up in a really blatant way, and we see the bus carrying Murphy from Downpour go into the town at the end because cameos. So that's what I hate about Silent Hill 3D in a nutshell.
Did 3 takes of that in every single one. I forgot to say Silent Hill Revelation 3D. That happens sometimes.
There really is more I could have mentioned, and I realize this isn't quite as well thought out as my list of things I hated about the first Silent Hill movie, but
Thinking the fans can do a better
like this
adaptations
movie
than these
doesn't
movies
deserve the
companies
effort.
can. That's debatable
Things I
because
liked about
Christoph
the
Gans
movie,
was a fan.
they're pretty inconsequential. I liked Heather's outfit. No, seriously, it's actually an improvement over the one in the
Silent Hill
game.
3 was probably
I'm
my
sure
favorite
some
too.
fans saw it and went, "It's got sleeves and tights. It's not supposed to have sleeves and tights." Nah. Well, it actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. Silent Hill 3 had Heather running around in the fog and snow in a sleeveless top and a miniskirt.
Kitty cameo.
At least now she's covered. Also, I like how the jacket is fitted instead of being all puffy. The one from the game isn't really that flattering. Also, I thought Adelaide Clemens did a great job with what she was given.
Why me?
I don't think she bears a striking resemblance to Heather, as a lot of people seem to think, but that doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, I mean, she's got the same hair, but
It's
like...
kind of neat seeing a
her-
flashback
I don't
of Harry
know.
killing the cult member that tried to attack them, which did
I
happen
guess
in
my
the
argument was
continuity
that
of the game,
she didn't look
but we
so
only
much
read
like
about
Heather
it, we
that she
never
had to
actually got
play her.
see it. Harry used a gun instead of a knife, and Heather was a lot younger at the time. But
supposedly that was the reason why they cast her
stabbing
instead of
was
like
kinda badass. Go,
the
Harry.
girl who played Alessa in the first
Already
movie,
mentioned that I like
because
Douglas
she would have been old enough to play her, but they didn't want to
And
cast her
also
because she
already
doesn't
mentioned
look
that I
enough like
Carrie Ann
Heather.
Moss did a really good job with what she was given for Claudia, and that's about it. Other than occasionally going, "Oh, that's kind of neat." There's nothing I really like
Dear
about
God,
this
Vincent
movie.
from the movie is a
God, I
save
hope
point.
I get to talk about the first Silent Hill game next year. Well, that's it for now. See you next time.
Swearing Dina, she mad. Whoop. Top 5 thing. Type that just as Duel of the Fates started. Duel of the Fates started playing. Battle music from the original Star Trek. That would have been a good one to use. Oh, that Pokemon Consultant. That was it. Linkara's reference to Pyramid Head as a Pokemon was oddly prophetic, all things considered, don't you think? There are so many ways to poke fun at the Pyramid Head missionary battle, I don't think it'll ever get old. I think Dead by Daylight did a better job at keeping with the lore than this movie. I'll have to mute this after a few seconds, but... Around, nothing's gonna ever keep you down, you're the best around. Wait, I won't pause, I'll mute it. There we go. Yay, Pyramid Head's the champion or whatever. Fuck this movie. Okay, let me get caught up with the chat really quick. I'm almost there, I think. Found something good. Sean Bean didn't die. Yeah, but he was playing Harry Mason, so he probably should have. I've seen people make that joke before. Like the one time Sean Bean didn't die and he was playing Harry Mason. Revelation should have been based on Silent Hill 4? I don't know about that. I don't know that Silent Hill 4 would necessarily make a good movie. Oh, you get to play as Pyramid Head? That's cool. I think I knew that, actually. I just forgot. Not my kind of game. Sean Bean, who dies all the time, plays a character that dies and doesn't die. What? Silent Hill rom-com. The first movie tried, this movie turned into a comedy halfway through production. Yeah. I don't like multiplayer games. Dina was a Silent Hill character. Her game would have a secret joke cat ending. Yup. I sort of put one in my Silent Hill 2 video. Well, not really the ending, but I did the credit sequence for the dog ending, but I replaced it with a cat. Can cats enter Silent Hill? It'd probably just be a regular town to them. Oh, I don't have too many thoughts on the Lord of the Rings trilogy, except that I liked it. I didn't really read the book, so... Oddly, I did read The Hobbit 3 times, but I never read the Lord of the Rings books. Anything can enter Silent Hill, but it doesn't become a nightmare unless it's a person who has issues to deal with. You need to just go back and watch my Silent Hill videos, Mr. Roboto, because you're always asking me questions that I've answered already in those. I mean, I didn't literally answer that question about animals, but I've talked about that sort of thing. That's true. There is one cat in Silent Hill that we know of. Silent Hill, or I think you mean Pyramid Head versus Missionary, but with health bars. Why did Pyramid Head kill her? Because he's defending Alessa? And then he dies off screen. Yes, Invader Zim is amazing. Tara hears my voice and she wants in, probably. Oh, I got you into Invader Zim. That's cool. I haven't watched it in ages, but it is really good. Oh, hi, Rin. Yeah, you made it. Little late, but you only missed one video. Into the Silent Hill, it has both the simplest and somehow also most confusing story. Oh, yeah. I don't think the first game is confusing. Foretold by Gyromancy. Everybody Loves Harry has been filmed in front of a semi-live studio audience. Oh, Lisa isn't dead by daylight? I don't think I knew that. Sean Bean dies so many times. He dies 3 times in GoldenEye. That's funny. 2 donuts and coffee for breakfast. Not very healthy, but good. My headcanon is that the real world is a normal resort town with nothing strange. Yeah, I think that's generally the agreed. I think that's the agreed upon theory or whatever. Yes, I have heard of Stray. That hasn't come out yet, has it? Animals would make Silent Hill more homey. The hobbits enter a forest, cue 5 pages of description of every single tree, branch, and leaf in said forest. Yeah, I've heard that the books are kind of, I don't know. I don't think boring is the word that I've heard, but overly wordy, I guess, is what I've heard. There was a new Silent Hill, I bet the joke ending would be $15 DLC. Yeah, sorry, Flash. I always have a bit of a cough. I have issues with my sinuses. But yes, I'm okay. Might be all the talking I'm doing. I'm not used to talking this much. You could take out most of the descriptive text and the book would only be a fifth volume. More like the lore of every tree in the forest. God damn it, you guys. I'm trying to get caught up and you keep talking. 5th of the original volume. That's what I figured you meant. Does Kindergarten Cop count as an adaptation of the first game? Well, no, because it came before the game. Oh, you asked what the weird-looking box was in the background, and I told you it was the box set of Invader Zim, and you had to look it up, and it was awesome. That's cool. That's one good thing about having those kind of props in the background. Considering he apparently turns into James at the end, would Sean Bean get the in-water ending if a third movie, presumably based on Silent Hill 2, had been made? Who knows? Okay, Stray hasn't come out yet. Yeah, I didn't think so. Every time I play Silent Hill 3, I dread the mall level. Yeah. First time I tried playing Silent Hill 3, I actually gave up in that area. I did eventually go back and finish it, of course, but yeah, first time I played Silent Hill 3, I kind of rage quitted in the mall. Fan theory that goes with the it was actually all mundane all along idea, but it's too long to type in the space. We know that's why we keep talking. Oh yeah, the subway level is hard also. Oh, are you going out? Okay. Lee was trying to get my attention by like rubbing keys together, and I was just sort of tuning it out because I thought it was the cats doing something. Hi, Watuk? Yeah, you're not too late. You only missed one video. Any chance of a film done on Zim one day? I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while at this point. I was kind of obsessed with it back when I was making Silent Hill videos, but anything's possible. Lord of the Rings books are among the best ever. Never read a book that makes you feel the adventure and the journey, but it's too long to read for some reason. They're good, but a bit of a chore at times. Yeah, that's the general impression I've gotten. A Silent Hill fighting game. Bye, Lee. Bring me back a crate of beer. Stray, a horror movie for cats. Stray is a game where you play as a cat. I think in like a post-apocalyptic world or something. Not a pick up and read any time kind of book, yeah. So once writing a Nano Silent Hill story, and it had to do with a dog there, I was actually torn as to whether the dog would see anything or whether only the man would. Yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't think animals would see anything, but I mean, maybe it's possible? Like, animals don't really experience guilt like people do, so I don't know. Unless maybe the person could be projecting onto the animal, like, you know, kind of like how as Harry you can see Alessa's demons. Maybe a dog could see your demon, your dog could see your demons, I don't know. Bit of a shame Konami stopped making Parodius games. I don't know that franchise. Phantom Panda rubbing his keys. God, every time I'm almost caught up, you guys post more. Animals would probably be able to sense that something was amiss in Silent Hill, but would they see monsters and such? God damn it, you guys. The mall was the first level and it was way too hard. I know. Oh yeah, Discworld. I've heard of that. I've heard about that. Tokyo Jungle. I've never heard of that. Oh yeah, Song of Ice and Fire. That's what Game of Thrones is based on, right? I never did watch Game of Thrones. I'm kind of glad I didn't after hearing how badly it crashed at some point. Messi is running in his sleep. Oh. Animals seem to be able to sense wrongness in horror. Yeah, that's true. That is one guilty dog. Seeing eye dog partner. Verity's Gradius. Oh, I thought you were joking. Okay. That sounds like a joke the way you said it. Imagine Pyramid Head drunk. I don't know that he would be too different. Game of Thrones has probably the worst ending to anything ever. I've heard that. Excuse me. Okay, let's start this shit. Okay, it is playing. I forgot that it silently hung on that image like that. But that's how the game was, so that's why I did it that way.
Hey, this is Dina. Welcome to the den.
Should probably turn this back
Okay,
down.
before I get to the meat of this video, I better address the
Let me know if
elephant
this
in the
isn't
room.
loud enough.
I'm not sure why people would even want it at this point, but up until pretty recently, I've been
turn my
getting a lot of
speaker down,
requests to
too.
do some kind of in-depth video about the Silent Hill quote-unquote playable teaser, or Silent Hills, the game that was going to be the next Silent Hill sequel.
People
that
have
everyone was
finally
excited
stopped
about,
asking me to do that
included,
now.
Until
Jesus
Konami
Christ.
canceled it. I was never going to make a video about it before the finished game came out. For one thing, I don't even have a PS4, so I never even got a chance to
Little
play it
bad
for
boy.
myself. And now that it's been taken down, I never will. I suppose I could have done some kind of commentary over someone else's playthrough of the teaser, but that would be kind of disingenuous since I didn't really experience it per se. I just watched someone else do it.
The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you?
I love the talking
Also,
paper bag.
again, the game
I'd
has
forgotten
been
about
canceled.
that.
It sucks to be sure, and like the rest of you, I sure wish it wasn't, but I just kind of want to move on rather than dwell on it. So yeah, the most I can say about Silent Hills is that it looked amazing and I would like to have played it. If you're still interested in speculation about symbolism and story elements that it may have been hinting at, I recommend reading the TV Tropes page. There's actually a lot of that on there. We'll never know for sure if it's accurate, but whoever wrote this obviously put a lot of thought into
Why
it.
did
and it's
Sybil give
definitely
Harry a
worth read.
gun? Because it's a
And
video
I guess
game.
I can't go
That's
without
the
also
answer.
mentioning what's happening with Konami.
Courage the
When
Cowardly
they
Dog
canceled
in
Silent Hills,
Hill.
they mentioned that the Silent Hill series would continue in the same breath as mentioning they were veering away from
Should
video
sue
game
Capcom.
production. Sounds like a contradiction. But then a commercial for the next Silent Hill game came out,
this.
which looked to be some kind of sequel or reimagining of Silent Hill 2.
God, it's painful.
Ha, just kidding. It's a Silent Hill 2 themed pachinko machine. Suckers. I'm sure we'd all like to hit the lever on Konami right about now.
Why do we even have that lever?
Hit the lever.
But
on
yeah,
Konami.
that's all I have to say about that, other than it's not the best time to be a Silent Hill fan. I could rant about
Quiet
Konami
contest.
and their horrible business practices and the firing of Hideo Kojima, but a lot of other video producers have done that already, and probably better than I ever could. I'll just say fuck Konami and leave it at that.
Yeah, it was.
Now that that's all out of the way,
Would have been
let's
interesting
go
to
back
see where
a
they were going to
happier
go with
time.
PT.
This is actually not the first video I've ever done on the original Silent Hill. Back in the days when I was
Hashtag
just doing guest
Fuckonami.
reviews for Still Gaming, I did one for Silent Hill. I was originally going to leave it at that, but eventually I decided to revisit it and give it similar attention as I've given the sequels. But I can't talk about how I discovered Silent Hill without talking about Resident Evil. Resident Evil was my introduction to survival horror, and I had never played anything like it until a friend introduced me to the Sega Saturn version of it.
No matter what direction he
Even though I'm
takes the
clearly
story, he has
showing
to
the
pretend
PlayStation
certain
version
events
here.
didn't happen.
Remember,
Oh,
I grew up
boy.
on the Atari 2600 and continued playing video
Okay,
games
Hershey,
throughout
thanks for
the reign
stopping
of
by.
Nintendo and Sega. During the time when I was just getting into horror movies and Stephen King novels, there weren't really any horror games to speak of. I know now that there were horror PC games and the first Clock Tower game was on Super Famicom, but I didn't have access to things like that then. And I think the Genesis version of Splatterhouse somehow flew under my radar. Even just seeing blood in a game was a rare treat for me back then. And even though my interest in fighting games ended up not lasting very long, you gotta know that I jumped on Mortal Kombat pretty quick, as I've talked about in an earlier video. It was the closest thing I had to a horror game for a while. But Resident Evil was a lot of fun. That was my favorite fatality for the longest time. It felt like a zombie or monster movie. Most of the scares were either jump scares or squick. And it's notorious for its cheesy dialogue and voice acting.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Overall favorite Silent Hill performance, probably Heather.
That's the line of the game right there.
But yeah, Mary and Maria was also really good.
But the graphics were beautiful for its time. It had a creepy, foreboding soundtrack and overall dark atmosphere. It basically achieved what it set out to do. But then the same friend told me about Silent Hill for the PlayStation, telling me that it was even scarier than Resident Evil. I played it, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I'd like to see the Red Dwarf cast in Silent Hill. I mean, that's kind of what Terraform was.
He was just in a car accident on his way through a small town called Silent Hill. And that's at least the third time I've said that phrase in a video.
Don't put courage in Silent Hill.
He wakes up to find his 7-year-old daughter Cheryl missing, and the town appears to be completely deserted. Other than
the Jinko machine has ash instead of snow.
And he meets a few other interesting characters on the way as he goes to hell and back to find his daughter.
I think Resident Evil was probably a lot of people's introduction to survival horror.
Gameplay-wise, it's pretty much run-of-the-mill survival horror. There are guns and various melee weapons. The gameplay is pretty straightforward. Despite being of the same genre, Silent Hill is a very different experience than Resident Evil. Instead of playing as a Special Forces officer, you play as basically just an average Joe, with very bad aim. Knowing what I now know about Team Silent, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that was probably intentional, since realistically, Harry's probably never fired a gun before. There are no bazookas or flamethrowers in this game, not that you don't get some nice weapons. The hunting rifle is probably the most powerful, just nothing of this caliber.
You did miss Revelation, sorry. That was the video before this one.
It's not as pretty as Resident Evil, mostly because Resident Evil had pre-rendered backgrounds,
fatality,
while with Silent Hill the rendering is
my
in real
favorite.
time.
God, I don't think I've seen
so
that one. I'll
graphics look more
that
dated. That doesn't really matter though. The ambiance more than makes up for it, and the design is great even if the graphics don't support it as well as they could have. I think if anything, it works in its favor. Silent Hill isn't supposed to be pretty, and I feel like the dated graphics help.
Chris laughing and Wesker saying, "Chris, stop it."
I actually find the first Silent Hill game to have the creepiest and most disturbing atmosphere overall, and I think that might be why. While Silent Hill being cerebral is kind of a given now, at the time, it was the first game I had ever played that really messed with my head.
I don't remember this being here before.
It introduced the concept of the other world.
I feel like I talked about the voice acting issue in this video somewhere, but I might be wrong.
Which became such a Silent Hill staple that
you
I
can always
didn't even
rewatch
bother
later. I know
mentioning
it's
it when
not the
talking about
same,
the
but
sequels.
Oh, hell.
I guess I just thought it was a given. Except I did bring it up when I talked about Origins, because that game lets you switch between worlds at will, which I didn't agree with. The only game to not use the other world concept is Silent Hill 4, as it was trying some new things, and instead of switching suddenly to the other world and back again at different points throughout the game, it was more like the world gradually became the other world the further you went into Walter Sullivan's subconscious, which was an interesting way to do it, if not as Silent Hill-like. But in the first game, it packs such a punch. You think you're nearly done with an area, then suddenly you have to do it all over again.
Wesker, you're
darker,
pitiful.
More
That game is so quotable.
More intimidating environment with scarier monsters. In fact, the first game played up the idea of the worlds being alternate versions of each other in one scene that just totally blew my mind when I first played it. In the locker room at the school, one locker is rattling. You go to open it, and it turns out to be a cliché cat scare. After it shifts to the other world and you go back to that room,
oh, here we go with a cat scare. I love
the locker is rattling again. But when you open it, it's empty other than being full of blood. And just as you're shaking your head, wondering if the cat exploded or something, and how it even got back in there to begin with,
Enrico!
You're hit with a jump scare coming from somewhere else in the room. That whole aspect of repetition just really messed with my head. That weird feeling of deja vu with just enough differences to put you off is like something out of a nightmare. I'm not sure how to even explain it, but I think it's brilliant. And even though jump scares are overused these days, this one is so well timed and effective that it's actually a nice touch.
Another thing that sets Silent Hill apart from Resident Evil is that it had lots of symbolism.
You don't really need to know the symbolism to understand this particular story, as it's less complex than the other games, but it really helps to flesh things out.
But Silent Hill does have one thing in common with Resident Evil: bad voice acting and dialogue.
Huh. Radio. What's going on with that radio?
What? What is this?
Although it's bad in a different Dr. way. Kaufman was
While
working
Resident
for
Evil
Umbrella.
characters have this weird fake urgency
probably
going
would,
on in
too.
their speech, which kind of makes them sound like hyper kids.
Jill, you're here too.
Yes, you're here too?
We're all here! Silent Hill is almost the opposite, where there's too little emotion and urgency.
You from around here?
COVID
Why don't you tell
addiction?
me what happened?
I don't mind it, actually. If anything, it gives an understated,
Is
creepy
the locker
vibe,
your
which I
favorite
don't
Silent Hill mind
dislike.
screw? Yeah, I
but there are
believe so.
lots of pauses in the speech.
I just got here. I don't know what happened.
Some of it obviously added in post-production, and that's kind of distracting.
For the 7 years since that terrible day, Alessa has been kept alive.
I think it might be a programming issue.
Also, I don't think the voice acting is
Why
necessarily
not have her
just
pause
bad.
there
instead
it
of
doesn't
chopping
have
it
that
up like that?
I'm acting feel to it.
Stop it! Don't open that door!
So much as the emotions the characters are trying to
Bit of a
convey
nostalgia
don't
Craig
always
reference
work
there,
with
but oh
what's
well.
going on in the scene. So that could be chalked up to
Isn't
bad
that
direction.
I mean, take the scene from the bad ending. It's technically a spoiler, but I'm showing it without
What
context,
is
and it's
this?
non-canon with Silent Hill 3 anyway. Harry's basically seeing his 7-year-old daughter die in front of him. And how does he react?
Cheryl?
Cheryl?
Cheryl!
Either way, this line
Cheryl?
just totally kills me.
Half the soul is lost. That is why the seed lies dormant.
The seed lies dormant. One good thing about Origins is that they took that scene and kept the dialogue intact, but it had better voice acting.
Half the soul is lost. The seed lies dormant.
But yeah,
The
that's
seed
the only
lies
legitimate
dormant.
bad thing I have to say about Silent Hill.
And I'm sure it has to do with the fact that the script was originally written by Japanese speakers and it got translated back and forth between Japanese and English a few times.
I wouldn't care, except that it also resulted in the story being really hard to follow, even as Silent Hill games Scott, go. mostly you missed
To
me
this
talking
day,
about
I don't
the
understand
second
half
Silent
of
Hill
what
movie.
Dahlia's talking about.
The path of the hermit concealed by flowers.
What? What are you talking about?
But anyway, I do definitely recommend this game, however dated it may look.
In part 2, I'll talk more about the story and characters.
As always, there will be spoilers, so
Oh,
if you
yeah,
haven't played the
Shattered
game
Memories,
yet,
that's
I am gonna miss you, Johnny Smith. Anyway, I recommend playing it before coming back for the next segments.
Gave it an almost Twin Peaks vibe, yeah. It does feel a bit Twin Peaks-like. Should probably skip ahead, I don't know if... in case it catches that music.
So what sets Silent Hill apart from most of its sequels is that the main character is kind of incidental. The monsters in this game don't represent Harry, but Alessa, who I'm going to talk more about later.
But first I'm going to start with the monsters.
Okay, Living Corpse, thanks for stopping by.
Meet Silent Hill Dog 1.0. The Groaners are basically
Cheryl,
very
well,
large,
damn.
emaciated-looking, hairless, dog-like creatures with rotted brownish skin. There
What
isn't a
sounds
whole
like
lot to
something
say
from
about
South
them.
Park,
They're
the
a
seed
pain
lies
if you get
dormant.
too close, but they're easy to outrun. I'm sure they're inspired by Cerberus from Resident Evil.
But in this case, they symbolize Alessa's fear of big dogs.
I feel like the unintentionally funny voice acting moments in Silent Hill comes from Dahlia. Yeah.
Air
Get a kick out
screamers
of the
are
way
why there
Angela
aren't too
says
many
lost,
flying
as though
enemies
she doesn't
in
know what
Silent
it
Hill
means.
games.
Well, that's the
They
thing.
are
I think Angela
irritating
was...
as
They were
fuck.
trying to
But an air screamer is the
put
first
across that
monster
she
you
was
see in this
weird
game
or
after
something
the
was
radio's
off about her,
introduced.
so I think that's...
Appearance-wise,
whoops.
they're based on
I forgot to
pterodactyls,
turn off my
only with
hot
a more
plate.
human-like legs and torso.
Anyway.
Apparently, Alessa read Sir
I think that
Arthur
was
Conan
intentional,
Doyle's
is
book,
my
The
point I
Lost
was getting
World, and
at.
the pterodactyls really stuck with her. Also, the Groaners and Air Screamers each have an otherworld counterpart, with the main difference being that their heads are covered with worms, and their coloration is a bit different. I honestly didn't catch on to that for a very long time and thought it was just the same enemies who just looked a bit different in the darkness.
I love that music. It's so, like...
The Grey Child is an interesting one, as it's only in the North American release.
Urgent sounding.
The Japanese and European versions replaced
Intense,
it with
what I was
another
trying to
creature
say.
called a mumbler. It was thought that the Grey Children looked too, well, childlike, according to the censors. In the North American release, the mumblers are
Crow
only
made
seen
a
in the
forced
second
sandwich.
sewer area. Personally, I don't think the Grey Children look all that childlike, more like short humanoids in general, but whatever. Either way, they mostly show up in the school and they represent the children who are mean to Alessa. There's also a dark, translucent type called a Stalker that shows up late in the game. The Grey Child is also the only monster from the first game to show up in the movie, and they were generally handled well. I thought their burning up at the end was a nice touch.
Literally the only good thing about the Silent Hill movie.
And then we have Larval Stalkers. Tiny, dark, and translucent. And harmless. They represent how Alessa felt, helpless and without an identity. Plus, they sometimes cling to Harry the way a scared child
Dahlia
would cling
assumes
to a
default
parent.
pose with a blank face momentarily
Also,
since
look how
that
cute
terrible
they
day.
are. Come on. Come on. Oh, he fell down. In an earlier
Little
version, they
Larval
were
Stalkers are
flesh-colored.
cute.
I can't decide which is cuter. Naturally, with this being a Silent Hill game, there is a hospital along with nurses. And looking back, how refreshing is it that they don't represent sexual repression for once, and/or aren't wearing skin-tight uniforms with their boobs half exposed? Not that I mind that as a one-shot thing, when appropriate for the respective character, but boy did it ever get repetitive after a while.
Yup.
Like the developers forgot that they could look any other way. Anyway, I have to say that the nurses really freaked me out the first time I saw this one in the game.
I have never
They're
seen Silent Hill
zombie-like in
3's
a
hard
way,
puzzles.
but
I
they're
always
not
put
like
it on
the zombies
easy.
in Resident Evil who just kind of aimlessly mill about in your general direction like something out of an old monster movie. When a nurse spots you, she comes right at you with a huge knife raised above her head. There's just something disturbingly
At least we can kill
realistic
babies
and
in Silent Hill
intimidating
4.
about that. Also, when I first faced a nurse, I happened to have the steel pipe equipped, so I proceeded to beat her to death like I had been doing with previous enemies. With the other enemies, the only way you can tell that they're still alive is that you continue to hear static on the radio. The nurses, on the other hand, writhe around on the floor in agony. That was the most horrifying thing I had ever seen in a video game. At that point, I realized it was like 4 a.m., so I shut it off and went to bed, and I'm pretty sure I remember having a vague nightmare about it afterwards. Anyway, in this game, they're generally hunched over with a kind of parasite growing out of their back, which is controlling them. And in this case,
Yeah,
they
the UK
represent how the
version had
medical
the
staff was
mumblers
being
instead of
controlled
the,
by the cult. I'll explain what I
Grey
mean by that
Children.
later. Also, what sets this game apart from the others is that along with nurses, there are also doctors. They're about the same, really, aside
The
from
Larval
the obvious
Stalkers are
physical
absurdly
differences.
adorable. Squeak.
In the
They
streets, you
are
have to
like
deal
little
with
dolphin
rompers.
squeaks.
I used to think they looked like thinner, long-legged bears, but they're actually humanoid creatures with brown skin like the dogs. They also appear to have a vertical mouth. Ew. They're also a complete pain in the ass because the second
hate
one
those
spots me,
things.
it always knocks me down. Apparently they symbolize Alessa's dislike of adults due to how forceful and overbearing they are.
We failed it.
Another enemy is the split-head boss, which is inspired by a creature in another book that Alessa read. It looks vaguely lizard-like, and its huge
Oh, yeah, those
vertical
creatures in
mouth is
Galaxy
its weak
Quest.
spot. Also, when you turn on the boiler in the school's basement, it makes the same noise as the monster, so whenever Alessa heard the boiler come on at school, she imagined it was the sound the monster from the story made.
They squeak like the desert rain fog.
Also, there's a split worm boss in Silent Hill 3, which was a callback to Splithead. This one obviously looks a
The
lot more
nurses
phallic.
represented Alexa's sexual frustration.
Most of the other creatures resemble various bugs and creepy crawlies that people tend to dislike. Giant cockroaches called creepers. The bloodsucker, which is made up of a trio of tentacles that resemble worms or snakes. The twin feeler boss, which is basically a giant poisonous caterpillar, which metamorphosizes into a giant moth called a float stinger.
With
And in the
revealably
sewers are hang
suspected to be more
scratchers,
comfortable
which
to
are
fight these
insect-like
nurses
with
and
their long
doctors,
limbs
yeah.
that they climb with. But I always thought they looked reptilian due to their coloring. This could be a reference to dragons, since Alessa was into fairy tales. The final boss is officially referred to as Incubus, but is called God or Samael by Dahlia.
The mark of Samael.
It's apparently based on a very old pagan fertility god called Baphomet.
Dr. Faustus with a
It has the head of a bull or a goat with a long pair of horns, the upper body of a woman, its midsection is missing other than the spine, and it has hooves and a set of wings. Yeah, it's very pagan looking. It basically
pagan
looks the way
looking.
Dahlia
I didn't know shit about
imagined it.
paganism when I made this video, you could tell.
The version we see in Silent Hill 3 is based on how Claudia imagined it with Alessa's face.
Beat the float stinger to death with a hammer.
It bursts
wow.
out of Alessa, and you have to kill it by dodging its lightning attacks and shooting it. As final bosses go, it's fairly easy to kill. If you're getting the bad ending, you actually fight Alessa, but the gameplay doesn't change.
no.
So the main character, as far as who you play as, is Harry Mason. The game starts off shortly after his wife has died, and his daughter Cheryl talks him into taking her to Silent Hill, which is where he has to swerve to avoid hitting a girl crossing the street, and crashes his vehicle. Cheryl is gone when he wakes up, so he spends pretty much the whole game trying to find her. Harry is not a super interesting character, but as I've said in other videos, I dig him anyway, at least as a concept. He lost his wife, and his daughter is pretty much all he has, so naturally he goes to hell and back for her.
Daddy, help me. Daddy, where are you?
Cheryl!
Aww.
By the way, this bit where he slowly hangs up the phone gets to me every time. But anyway, I think that also affects how he reacts to the two women he meets in the town. He is really kind towards Lisa, and I like these moments where he finds her and they're all happy to see each other. It's kind of a nice break from all the horror. Also, when Sybil is injured late in the game, I'll explain that later, Harry takes care of her.
Baphomet was a corruption of
Also,
Muhammad
when I
and was
did that
created
Still
to give the
Gaming
King of
episode,
France a
I made a
reason to
joke
destroy
about
the
this
Knights
scene.
Templar. Yeah, I found out later that nobody actually, no one actually worshipped Baphomet, at least not then.
I'd better check it out first.
He's become kind of a symbol of the Church of Satan, but...
I should go.
Exactly.
No.
Oh
I'm
god, this
going.
bit. People gave me so
No.
much shit for this.
Go into the kitchen and make me some pie.
Which got me a lot of flack.
I thought that
First
was
of
funny.
all, obviously
Go into
I
the
was not
kitchen
being
and
completely
make me some
serious,
pie.
but still, I was trying to make a
Awkward
point
pause
that
and all.
this scene has some unfortunate implications. Sybil is a cop. She's trained to handle disaster situations. Leather pants notwithstanding. What makes Harry, a writer, think that he's more capable of scoping out danger than she is? Well, it could simply be that being in this scary situation with a woman around subconsciously reminds
That's interesting
him of
about
the
the
death
Silent
of
Hill
his
3
wife.
monsters.
And that makes him a little uncomfortable, and he's overcompensating a bit, basically trying to protect her even though she shouldn't really need it in this case. The scene still makes me cringe a little, but mainly I just think it was handled badly. Sybil backing down doesn't help.
All right. I'll cover you from here.
A cop should be able to assert herself
Anyone
better
ever
than
write
that.
a what if or if
Not to
Harry
mention that the very
hadn't
next
actually had to swerve
conversation
to avoid
leads her to
hitting the
believe
vision
that
of
Harry
Alessa.
isn't in his right mind.
Not that I know of.
Do you know anything about... well, like some
You can
other
imagine the
world?
adult fear effect the
It's
phone
like
call
some
has
kind
on
of
me as a
bad
dad.
dream.
Yeah. Even if you're
It's
not
like
a parent.
I was there, but not really.
Yeah. Even more so
It's
if you
all
are.
a blur, like some kind of
Do
hallucination.
you want some pie, damn it. I've actually got some Thanksgiving
But
pumpkin
anyway,
pie
yeah, I don't
leftovers
actually think Harry is misogynistic or anything. That would go against the rest of his
Let's see,
character.
what do I have? I have pumpkin
There
pie
isn't really a whole lot
and
else to say about Harry
pecan
Mason that
pie.
I haven't
I feel
already
like there's
said in
one
other
other thing I'm
videos.
forgetting.
He's kind of the straight man surrounded by
No,
all
I
this
think that's it,
craziness.
actually.
One of the reasons I love Shattered Memories is that it takes
Okay,
Harry
Mr.
and does some
Roboto, thanks for
interesting
stopping
things
by.
with him. A well-made Silent Hill movie could have done that, but we know how
Did
that
Cartman
turned
write
out.
what?
I mentioned in my Silent Hill 3 video what his name was.
Oh, that
originally
line.
going to
I was
be, but
referencing
didn't do my
Cartman, though.
homework, and so there was a certain nuance I didn't pick up on, so I'm going to mention it again and expand on it. According to the character commentary page in
me
Book of
some
Lost
pie.
Memories, Harry was originally to be called Humbert after the main character in Lolita, but the
Oh,
English
this
staff
bit.
changed it because, quote, it was an uncommon name. How about the fact that they nearly named a devoted father figure after a child rapist? What the fuck, Japanese developers? Not to mention that Cheryl was to be named Dolores after the title character in Lolita, who is the victim of said rape. Seriously, what the hell?
Must be on drugs.
Although there is a blurb at the very end stating, I thought they're the same, but... Which might be indicating that it was meant to be ironic since the two characters in Lolita were posing as a father and daughter, but weren't. Which I guess could also be said for Harry and Cheryl, since she isn't
so
his
gross.
biological daughter. So I guess I kinda get it, but that still would have some pretty messed up connotations. Good lord, that would have been distracting. However it happened, I'm glad they didn't go that way.
The pie
In any
joke was
case, the
funny
actor who
because
played
it fits
Humbert
the
in
bit of bad
Kubrick
writing
film was
that
named
showed up.
James
Yeah.
Mason.
That's
So
what I
Harry's
thought.
last name most likely comes from that. I'm guessing that
Yes,
the protagonist in
pecan pie.
Silent Hill 2
It's so
being called
good.
James is coincidence.
And Lee doesn't like
since
it, so I get
everything
all
I've
of
read
it.
indicates that the name is a derivative of Joseph, which is linked to Jack the Ripper. But it's still kind of interesting.
Theories of the closers in
Speaking of
Silent Hill 3
actors,
also
Harry was voiced by a
represent
voice
Alessa's
actor who
dislike
goes
of
by
adults.
Michael
Yeah,
G.
I've heard that one too.
And aside from being known for saying this line...
Oh, this is great.
Radio.
I love
What's
discovering
going on
this.
with that radio?
He apparently also said this line.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. Have at you.
Enough talk. Have at you. The announcer in Ridge Racer. Kind of ironic considering how Silent Hill starts out.
Look, Harry. I really don't get what's going on.
The square root of pi. No, I don't.
If there's a chance we can save your daughter,
all of the pie. Sybil doesn't really
favorite
do
kind
a
of
whole
pie.
lot in this game.
Probably.
She's mostly just there to help move the story along. She gives Harry a gun early
butterscotch
on, which
cinnamon
is
pie.
a really odd thing for a cop to do, but whatever.
And don't go blasting me by mistake.
And every once in a while, they just
glasses,
kind of
Harry.
touch base. It seems
Hi,
that she
Moonbeam.
doesn't see any monsters or the other world, so she apparently isn't pulled into Alessa's nightmare as deeply as Harry is.
Good news, Homer. Is it
no
about
idea
pie?
what you're talking
Or
about,
no?
Harry.
That's funny.
Late in the game, Sybil is infected
That
by
reminds
the
me
same
of Cartman
parasite
going, "Is it
inflicting the
ham?"
nurses in the hospital.
Kyle goes,
and you
"No,
have to
it's not
choose to
ham,
either
you
kill
fat
her
fuck."
or use a substance on her called aglaphotis that expels the parasite.
I don't normally
If you
approve
do
of
save
fat
her
jokes,
but end up
but
with
when
a
it's
bad
Cartman,
plus
it's
ending,
okay.
she literally slaps some sense into Harry and helps him escape.
Harry. Go.
If you save her and end up with a good plus
Harry,
ending and save, the next time you see the opening, Sybil is shown replacing Harry's wife, implying that they
Going to
got
bake
together.
my sister a devil's food cake with bourbon maple syrup
However,
for her
there's
birthday. Oh my
absolutely
god, that
no
sounds so
evidence of
good.
Sybil in Silent Hill 3, and therefore no indication of what happened to her after the first game, or which of the two good endings is canon.
have to steal that
There's
idea.
a lot of speculation, and it seems that not all of the developers agree on it. But Book of Lost Memories states that the good ending is canon,
Harry
meaning
failed
that
to
Harry had to
ridge
kill
race.
Sybil on the carousel.
Lolita's a weird book because a girl is written
Which
as being
sucks,
kind of promiscuous,
because,
so
damn,
that
it's
could
brutal.
be from the main character's viewpoint to
The only
rationalize
reason I
his
can think
actions.
of
Yeah, I've
for
heard
this
that.
is that it is stated in
Still
Silent Hill
ew.
3 that the little pill in Heather's locket, which was given to her by Harry, is made of aglaphotis, which is why when she takes it, the god fetus she was carrying is
Yeah,
aborted
now that we know his
in a
name
similar
was
way that
his
the
name is
parasite
Michael
is
Gwynn.
expelled
At the
from
time,
Sybil.
he's just going by Michael G.
So I think the implication is that Harry doesn't use the aglaphotis on
Pistol
Sybil,
whips
therefore he
Harry.
holds onto it and has it made into the pill for Heather years later. I'm not saying that's
I'd
necessarily
be okay with a
true.
Harry and
In
Sybil
fact,
ship.
my first
They don't need
assumption
to be
was that
shipped
Harry
together,
just found
but
more
if you're going to
aglaphotis
ship
at
somebody
some
in that
point
game,
to make the pill for Heather,
that would
and
make
I didn't think
sense.
to question it until I saw this brought up on a forum
Especially this
somewhere.
scene.
But it is stated to be rare and extremely difficult to obtain, so maybe Harry not using it on Sybil was the only way
Konami told him
to
to get
some to
credited
Heather
under
later
Michael
on.
G because they
Either
thought
way,
Gwyn
Sybil's
would be too
backstory is
difficult to pronounce
expanded
for
on in the
Japanese
Silent
people.
Hill
Yeah, I've
play
heard that.
novel.
I think
She
we read
eventually
the same
became
interview.
a cop because she witnessed her parents being shot to death when she was
South
a
Park
kid.
movie.
Also, I'm going to admit
We were to
something.
understand there'd be pie and
Despite
punch.
her being
Oh,
really
there isn't
stupid
any.
in the
Oh,
end,
gets up
Sybil
and
is about
leaves.
the only character that I thought was mostly handled well in the movie. It probably helps that she didn't have a whole lot of characterization in the
Hable
game, so
Creary.
there was less for them to screw up.
Hable.
Either way, she was a badass. But yeah, I admit it. I actually do like Sybil in the movie. Don't get me wrong, I like her in the game too. She has a kind of swagger and body language that suggests
Yeah,
attitude.
Sybil was
and
okay in the
I get
movie
a kick
if,
out
like,
of that. But she doesn't really have a whole
that
lot
was
of
the
screen
only
time,
thing they
and
changed
stuff
was
happens to
Sybil's
her more often
character.
than she
That would've been
actually does
alright.
stuff.
Harry, tell me what's happening here. Where is everybody?
That Sybil had been in a better movie.
I must have gotten knocked out. When I came to, everyone was gone. It's awful.
Now, Lisa Garland, on the other hand, we do learn what happens to her, unfortunately. She had worked for Dr. Kaufman, who got her hooked on a drug and had her taking care of Alessa. I know I haven't gotten to Alessa yet, but for now, I'll just say that taking
Yeah, but
care
like
of Alessa
strong women
was
can
not
be in
an easy
relationships
task, and it took
too.
a
It's
toll
not
on
inherently
Lisa's
bad.
sanity.
I can't stand it any longer. I won't tell a soul. Promise.
Multiple additional South Park films on the way? I mean,
She
probably
tried to
straight
quit,
to
but
cable,
Kaufman
though,
took
right?
away the drug, causing
I
her to
assume that's what
hallucinate.
they've been
By the time
advertising
Harry
is gonna
meets
be on
her,
Paramount
oh boy,
Plus.
is she ever broken.
I mean, I'm fine with that as long as they're good.
She is stuck in the hospital's otherworld, is suffering memory loss, and is
If you
horribly
could even, it's
afraid.
your own
Harry?
fault. Don't hate on it, just prefer.
But
it
once
not
she
be your
goes into the
headcanon.
basement,
yeah, it's fair.
She begins remembering
Yeah,
that
I
she's
mentioned
the
that
same
in
as
here
the
that Thessaly Lerner
parasitized
was a
nurses that had been
psychonaut.
attacking Harry.
Harry?
And remembering that
Ship her
triggers
with
a
the villain instead.
transformation, resulting in a famous scene that is as heartbreaking
Nah, you're
as it
supposed to
is
ship Lisa
horrifying.
with Dr. Kaufman. I still hate that.
Poor Lisa. Go easy on Harry, by the way. He's not enjoying locking her up. He's just trying to save himself so he can go find his daughter. When I came to, everyone had gone. We were all drunk at parties.
Lisa
was
don't
named
feel
after
too
Judy
bad.
Garland, who of course played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. There's kind of a parallel there in that Dorothy becomes lost in a dreamland, which is similar to what happens to Lisa, though hers is more of a nightmare. Lisa is voiced by Thessaly Lerner, who has actually been in a lot of stuff. Video game-wise, she's done a lot of voice work for The Sims, and she had a small part in Psychonauts.
She doesn't have time for an ugly little girl like you.
She's actually a great voice actor, which gives a bit more credibility to my theory that the voice actors in this game aren't necessarily bad, they were just given bad direction. As for Silent Hill 3, Lisa is clearly referenced at some points, but others are kind of controversial among fans. I didn't mention this in my Silent Hill 3 video because I thought it was just a rumor, so I ignored it. But over the years I've kind of changed my mind, so I'm going to bring it up here. And the words of Masahiro Ito seem kind of vague on this. Just before the shift to the other world in the hospital, the nurse Lisa, who appears
Strong
in the
women
first
can definitely
game,
be in
can
relationships.
seen.
I just dislike
The purpose of including this is to show that Alessa's influence
feels
on
like
the
it's the
other world
driving
grows
reason behind
stronger
them
as she
being strong.
regains her
Oh yeah, I
memories.
mean I get that,
It
but I don't
indicates that
feel
even
like that
after
would
the
be the
first
case
game,
with
she
Sybil. I
continues
would
to
assume
suffer
like
in the
if
other world.
her and Harry had some kind of
Now, is he
relationship,
just
it would be
talking about the
afterwards.
videotape, which we see again at this point?
Why? What is keeping that child alive?
Because immediately after that, there are various pictures of Lisa's
Well, I know way to
smiling
save
mouth.
Lisa in any version
and
of the
near
game,
said
I know.
pictures is a bound female figure who is being made to suffer in some way, near Valtiel. It doesn't look like Lisa, but she is wearing a nurse hat.
You mentioned The
She also
Sims
shows
too.
up
I
again
just
later,
read that
still
right
in the
after I
hospital,
mentioned that
in
here.
a similar situation, only Valtiel appears to be doing something to her behind some
Yes,
black
Lisa
smoke,
Garland
which is
was named
barely
after Judy
visible,
Garland.
though some fans have managed to hack it so that you can see it clearly. And no, Valtiel is not going down on her because he's facing the other way. Of course, she does resemble the Silent Hill 3 nurses that you have to fight, but the fact that she's always near images of Lisa, to me that seems to imply that it's meant to be Lisa.
I know Origins did
One
that,
could
that's
argue
why I
that
made the
he's
joke.
referring to just the videotape, but then he goes on to say this. Although a nurse appears in a similar fashion in the church as well, this does not have anything to
Is
do
this
with
scene
Lisa.
showing how Lisa finally
So
remembers and
it
is
sounds
fully
like he's
changing
saying
into a
that
nurse?
this
Yeah,
is
that's
Lisa,
the impression I always
but
got.
this is not. They do look different. And yes, I'm aware that this same character was also featured in the short film Fukuro. Saying that's not Lisa, that's Fukuro lady makes about as much sense as saying Pyramid Head doesn't represent James's need to punish himself in Silent Hill 2, that's just Fukuro guy. What I mean is that Fukuro is just a bunch of imagery with no context, so pointing out that something was also in Fukuro isn't really an argument against it being something in particular in the games. I do recommend watching it, by the way. It's like Silent Hill Monster Orgy, the music video. It's only a couple minutes long and it's all over YouTube. Not to mention all kinds of fucked up.
Must be on drugs.
That said, I'm not necessarily saying that this is definitely Lisa. I'm just saying that I think that theory has some merit, and much as I'd like for Lisa to have some kind of happy ending,
limitation doesn't help.
this just makes too much sense, all things considered.
Literally, what is he doing that will prepare the world for God? Who knows? I don't think we're supposed to know. 33 people watching. Cool. That sounds about like what I've had the last couple weeks.
So, meet the person who is most to blame for everything that happens in this game, and pretty much the series. There were certainly other people involved as well, but Dahlia Gillespie was the mastermind behind all of it.
Herein lies the mother's womb, containing the power to create life.
She originally
Let's get
shows
them
up in the Balkan
D-Nations in.
church spouting a bunch of
That would be
nonsense,
nice.
which she does a lot of in this game.
I would appreciate those.
A lot of it makes sense as you go along, but some of it doesn't. By the way, nice spelling error.
The time is nay.
Believe it or not, she's
The
supposed to
time
be
is nay.
46 when this game takes place.
It is kind of like the tape and ring.
I just turned 40, so she has seen some shit. When she was 32, she had a kid
my little
who,
humble
from
brag
very
there.
early on, showed signs of telekinetic powers, which
Humble
reminded
brag
her
the
of the
right
dark
word? I
god
don't
that
know.
her cult worshipped. So she figured her daughter Alessa would be a good vessel to birth their god.
Thanks for the reawakened
So she
trauma
used a
from
ritual
Fukuro.
of some kind to impregnate her. During the ritual,
Once
a fire
read a
was
fanfic
started,
that gave
which
the
burned
idea
down
that
the
Lisa
house
was
with Alessa
accidentally
inside.
dragged into the other
There's
world,
an article
and
you
she
can
came up
find
with
in
a
the
plan
game
of
stating that it
Alessa
was believed to have
wiping
been
her
caused by the
memory of this
malfunction of an antiquated boiler.
to be a
But
scared
I think
nurse
it's
to
more likely a
distract
cover-up
Harry.
by the cult, and she was burned intentionally
Makes
as part of
sense.
the ritual. Yeah, Dahlia is about the nastiest antagonist in the series, alongside
Supposed to be
Dr.
Alessa's
Kaufman.
mouth?
She does eventually get
I mean,
at
I
least
thought
a
it looked like
smidge of what's
Lisa, but
coming to
maybe
her in
not.
the end.
She also helped to set the events of Silent Hill 4 in motion, since apparently she was the one who
person
told
who's
Walter
most to blame
Sullivan
for everything in this
wake
game
his mother by
series.
completing
But
the
I haven't
21
seen Jar Jar
sacraments.
Binks anywhere.
Apparently this
Wrong
was to be a
series.
backup plan in case things didn't work out with Alessa. Dahlia was named after a former girlfriend of horror film director Dario Argento, whose name was actually Daria. Whoops. Her last name may have come from a character in Stephen King's
Japan.
Salem Slot. But Dahlia did not work alone. Dr. Michael Kaufman had ties with the cult. Alessa survived being burned and was kept alive for 7
That's a
years
fun
with a
typo when she
combination
says
of
the
magic
time
and
is May.
medicine. Kaufman kept her in the basement of Alchemilla Hospital and forced Lisa Garland to care for her, and then he basically didn't allow her to quit. Kaufman isn't really that interesting. I mean, it's shocking to learn that he's a doctor and he's using that medical knowledge in such a messed up way. Oh, what the hell. There's just something so unsettling about a deranged doctor. Something about all that knowledge of human anatomy being put in the wrong hands.
Oh, thank you, Ashtray.
Not totally appropriate, but I never get tired of referencing
Hope
Dr.
moving
Faustus.
plans are coming along nicely.
Anyway,
Thank you.
other than his part in the game's backstory, he's not that interesting. This is
Oh,
actually
thank
the
you
only
too,
case where I
George.
preferred the version of the character
Hasn't come
that was
up
in
yet. There it is.
Origins.
Harder.
He had a quiet creepiness to him that I totally dug.
Time to put her
Yeah, the movie plans have technically been put on hold, but yeah. Here he just sounds kind of cold and proper.
Did you see those monsters? Have you ever seen such aberrations? Ever even heard of such things?
James being
He's always in this
stalked by Jar
perpetual
Jar
state of
Binks
urgency, though, which
created by
amuses
your
me for
guilt
some
and
reason.
he's,
I can't just
in
sit
Big
around
Doo-Doo this
here
time.
doing nothing. This isn't the time to stand around
Oh, that's
flapping
funny.
our gums. You shouldn't be hanging around here goofing off.
Until he gets really mad, and then he starts sounding like the shop teacher from South Park.
Quit screwing around.
Hey, don't screw around. You screw around.
I reference Silent
He's
Hill.
even more
I mean,
trigger-happy than
Silent
Richard
Hill.
Braintree.
I reference South Park a lot in these videos.
At least he didn't actually shoot at Henry. Either way, he's a total scumbag and definitely gets what's coming to him at the end.
Honestly, I still watch South
Dr.
Park. I still
Michael
like it a
Kaufman's
lot.
name is an amalgam of the names of two producers from Troma Studios. Also, Kaufman in German means seller, dealer, or businessman,
I
which
like that
references both
fact
his
about
drug
his
dealing
names
and his
named
businessman-like
after the two guys from
appearance.
Troma. Why
Oh,
could we
good
have a
Lord,
good
Alessa.
Silent Hill remaster collection? I know.
Even before the ritual, she had a rough time of it. Not only did the kids at school bully her, but it's hinted at that she was also abused by Dahlia. According to one of her teachers, her expression was, quote, pitifully dark for a 6-year-old.
Yeah, I know about Origins.
And then
I
the
actually
ritual
mentioned that
happened, leaving
earlier
her in
in the video.
excruciating pain for 7 years as she suffered from third-degree burns all over and impregnated with a god that she couldn't deliver, so it ate away at her from the inside, causing not only pain but horrible nightmares for 7 years.
That's what George Lucas
Needless
would
to
see
say,
in
she
Silent
went
Hill.
insane and essentially lashed out, her powers awakening the negative energy already present
Yeah,
in
Silent
the town
Ponyville is
from all the
surprisingly
tragedies
good.
that had happened in the past, causing those nightmares to manifest themselves. Screw
I'm
it.
not a fan of Flutterdash, but the nightmare becomes reality.
Silent
Yeah,
Hill
so
2
I didn't,
actually expands on
Silent
those past
Ponyville 2 is
tragedies
my
a lot.
favorite of that series.
She had also
but
split
my
her
least
soul in
favorite
two.
of that series,
The second
I mean,
part
but
manifesting itself as a baby
overall,
that
it's
was found
still
on the
really
side of
good.
the road by Harry Mason and his wife, who they adopted and named Cheryl. She lived as a normal, happy kid, which is what Alessa wanted, for at least part of her to be happy for
Or
a while.
Harold.
But after 7 years of suffering, Alessa wanted to end it, so she summoned her
Well,
other
even
half,
as that sound
Cheryl,
of LTL makes just
so they
some
could
record
become one
scratching
again,
all
and
jumbled and
Alessa could
modified.
end
I know
her
it's
life.
weird.
But that was also what Dahlia wanted, because God could not be born unless Alessa was whole. Alessa and Cheryl do re-merge and end up under Dahlia's control. In the good endings,
Oh, yeah,
Dr.
Story of the
Kaufman
Blanks,
throws
I've heard of that.
Aglaophotis on Alessa, causing God, or the incubus,
Y'all
to
screw
emerge
around
from
too
her
much.
prematurely.
Yeah, Mr. Garrison and Mr. Mackey are both fun. Art of Diamanda Hagen has said anything
Once
about the
Incubus
Trauma
is
Silent
killed,
Hill
Alessa
collection.
dies
I
as
don't
well,
know. I've
but
never
not
seen
before
her say anything about
reincarnating her whole
I never
self
even heard her
as a
talk
baby,
about
which
Silent
she
Hill, I
gives
don't
to
think.
Harry. I think when she merged with Cheryl, she
Castlevania
gained some
My
of
Little
her
Pony
memories,
fan
and
game?
she
I have not,
recognizes
but it
Harry
sounds
as the
interesting.
loving father figure she didn't have as Alessa, and she wants to experience that herself. Of course, that baby grows up to be Heather, and see my videos on Silent Hill 3 to see the rest of that story.
Oh, the guy who played
One thing
Kaufman
I'm
has
pretty
been in
sure
a
I
bunch
didn't
of video
touch on
games.
in
That's
those videos,
interesting.
though, is that Alessa does show up in Silent Hill
Didn't know
3
that.
in the form of a boss. She tries to kill Heather to spare her and others from further pain after God is born. Afterwards, Heather remarks that she doesn't really consider her and Alessa to be the same being, since
Yeah,
they
Heather's
don't
my
think
favorite
alike,
protagonist, too.
despite that she has regained Alessa's memories. But yeah, it sucks to be Alessa.
Do not ever
One thing I
Google
didn't
search
like about
fourth
both the
degree
movie and
burns.
Origins
Oh
is
god,
that they
yeah,
painted
that
Alessa
didn't
as
sound like
spiteful and
something I'd want to
malevolent.
see.
Especially in the movie where she goes on a bloody murderous rampage with barbed wire tentacles.
And
Granted, maybe that works with the movie.
I don't
story,
like pairing
which
up the main
involves an
six
entire
personally.
Town of people turning on a 7-year-old.
I feel like
for no
that throws
reason.
off their whole friendship
I'd be pretty pissed
vibe
off
if
about
some
that
of them
too.
are
But it was still
dating.
over the top and ridiculous in my opinion, especially since I didn't even like the story leading up to that point. Anyway, while she certainly has reason to be angry and vengeful, I never saw her that way in the first game. And that's actually part of what I liked about her. She does become a little more aggressive towards Harry as the story progresses.
Any reason they removed
but really
the
she's
siren
just trying
from
to
the other
slow
world
him
in
down
Silent Hill
because she
3?
doesn't
I
want
don't
him
know.
to reach Cheryl.
I actually forgot that they did
In the
that.
game, she's mostly focused on reaching her goal, which is rejoining with Cheryl and ending her life. That's all she cares about at this point. But she comes across as mostly
Sleepover
benevolent
episode
in the
of
game,
sexual
which I
tension.
liked because it's the less obvious way to go, rather than the scorned victim bent on revenge trope that we've seen in a million other things. Interestingly, Stephen King's Carrie is cited as part of the inspiration for this
What the hell's
story,
written on the
which
front
is
of Cheryl's
infamous
book?
for its bloody revenge scene. But I feel that Silent Hill focuses more on the girl with telekinetic powers who is tormented by her peers and an abusive religious fanatic mother aspect rather than the revenge aspect. Maybe that's just me, but that's how I saw Alessa when I played the first game, and so I was disappointed to see the movie in Origins take it in another and more obvious direction. Alessa was going to be named Asia after Dario Argento's daughter, but they didn't go with that, apparently because it's a, quote, uncommon name. I'd say Alessa is less common, if anything, but whatever. Her name in Italian means Defender of Mankind, which
I
is
don't
a
really
fitting
ship the
name for
members of the
Dahlia
main
to
six
give her
with
since she
anyone,
wanted her
yeah.
to birth God, which was supposed to result in bringing paradise. It could also be a reference to Alessa's
Yeah, the only characters I ship are Spike and Rarity, but only in a
Here's something
totally
I totally
G-rated
missed
way.
when I
Like,
covered Silent Hill 4, because I honestly never even
I
caught
think
it
I've
while
talked
playing
about it in
the
my
game.
videos, but yeah.
The image on the Saint Medallion, the item that protects Henry from ghosts, has the same
Also,
image
I like
of Saint
Rarity and
Alessa
Fancy
that
Pants.
appears
I
in
feel
a
like they'd
painting
be
in
a cute
Silent Hill
couple,
3.
but that's pretty much the only
Considering
shipping
how
I've ever
often I
done
hear
on that
fans
show.
say that Silent Hill 2 and 4 don't
Yeah, I didn't know
necessarily
anything
take
about
place
her
in the
when I
same
made this
universe
video,
as 1 and
obviously. I
3.
just
Silent Hill
looked
4
up
sure
the
references the first
significance
game
of
a
the
lot.
name.
So that's Silent Hill, the game that started it all. It was
An
surprisingly
elaborate
hard to
psych-
talk about,
elaborate
and I know this
psychic
episode is
suicide attempt,
relatively
something
brief
like that,
compared to my
yeah.
previous Silent Hill videos.
Spike is a good boy.
I guess because for a long time I didn't think I was even going to make this video, so I ended up talking about the first game a lot when covering the sequels, so there wasn't much left after that. But yeah, this game was revolutionary for its time, often imitated, never duplicated, as they say. Probably just about any game these days that has a dark and cerebral bent to it could be traced back to Silent Hill for at least part of its inspiration.
Silent Hill was the very first
Speaking of
R-rated horror
inspiration, I
movie you
figured this
ever
would be a good
watched. I
time to
winced a
talk
couple
about
of
the
times, and I
sources that
still
Silent
don't
Hill
handle
drew
gore
inspiration
well to
from
this
that
day.
I haven't already mentioned. Aside from Carrie, there's also
Pinkie
the
Pie
Mist.
X-Cheese
I don't think I
sandwich.
have to explain that one. Insert usual comment about how I still haven't seen this one, but I need to. An obvious one is Jacob's
I
Ladder,
did
which is
eventually
really
see that
inspiration
movie,
for
by
the
the
whole
way.
series to varying degrees.
Pretty good. I wish
In
the
the first,
special
it's
effects were a
mostly
little
that the
better.
wheelchair with a spinning wheel
CG
is
kinda
similar
stood
to a
out a little
bike
too
with a
much.
spinning wheel. Then there's the fact that, how can I put this without spoiling anything? One of Silent
Now
Hill's
time to change
endings borrows
Silent
heavily
Hill's
from the movie's ending.
character names because
Apparently
it's an
the Gillespie
uncommon
house
name.
modeled
Yeah.
after a painting called
Well, you know, it was a
Christina's
Japanese
World. The house
company
in
and they
that
were making
painting
it for
depicts a real
Americans,
one,
so-
the Olsen house, which is in Maine, which is most likely where Silent Hill is meant to be. Also, the girl depicted in this painting suffers from paralysis, which could be seen as similar to how Alessa couldn't get out of bed for 7 years.
On My Little Pony shipping,
And
one
of
of my
course, there
favorite
are lots
fan
of
arts was
references to
after a
classic
comic
children's books
where
since
we
Alessa
get
was
Nightmare
reader.
Rarity, and I looked up
Alice
fan
in
art of the
Wonderland with a
others in
puzzle
Nightmare
involving
form.
plates
We've seen
depicting
it.
various characters.
Great
Then,
and
of course,
Terrible
there's The
Nightmare
Wizard of
Spike
Oz with
and Nightmare
Lisa's last
Spike.
name
That's
and a puzzle that
interesting.
involves collecting 3 keys that reference the characters. The various
I want a
locked
Humbert
doors
in a
in
Silent
Nowhere
Hill
that are
game.
labeled Aratron, Beethor,
Maybe that could be his
Haggett,
last name. It could be
Ophiel,
like
and
Joe
Phaleg,
Humbert.
are named after 5 of the 7 Olympian spirits mentioned in
Coiled up
several
by Nightmare
Renaissance and
Rarity. That sounds
post-Renaissance
cute.
books of ritual and ceremonial magic. And this one is totally
I
random,
only ever
but
see Spike
apparently
and Rarity as a
Midwich
kid has a
Elementary
crush on
School is
older
modeled
friend and
after
he
the
grows
school
out of
for
it eventually.
kindergarten
Yeah,
cop.
but I think
Yeah.
Rarity likes him
The
a little
list is
bit
actually
too, but
pretty
maybe just
long.
not
I
on that
mostly
same
just picked
level.
out things I was at least partly familiar with,
So
along
I guess
with a
it
few
doesn't
things
really
that were
count as
just
a
too
ship,
interesting
but-
to leave out. Well, guys, I guess that's about all I have to say about Silent
It's that
Hill.
Jacob Ladder bloke.
Despite the fact that it looks dated and has a few flaws, like the voice work, it's definitely worth playing, if only for its significance and how it helped shape how horror was handled in video games. This feels kind of like the end of another era. I have now covered all Silent Hill games that I have been able to play, and of course both movies. And frankly, with how things are going with Konami
Cross-pollination?
right now,
I'm not sure what that has to do
I don't have too
with-
much confidence that more games are going to get made. Silent Hill themed pachinko machines notwithstanding. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm done making Silent Hill.
Did Silent Ponyville ever do anything with that
There's
concept?
also Silent
like
Hill Arcade,
anything to
which
do with the
isn't really
Equestria
my
Girls?
cup of tea
No,
as far as
if I'm
gameplay
understanding
goes,
the
and it's
question
mostly
right.
fan service as far as monster designs.
I have not seen the
But
Lighthouse.
It does
I've heard a lot of good
reference some
things,
of Silent Hill's
though.
history as it was established in earlier games, so I think it's worth talking about in that regard.
Oh, where I'm talking about all the videos I was
Also,
thinking
while
of
not
making
an
that I
official
never did.
game, Silent Hill Alchemilla looks
I
like
forgot
it's
all
worth
about
playing
Silent
and
Hill
possibly talking
Alchemilla.
about. I have not played it yet, but I plan
Still
to.
haven't gotten around to
And
playing
if the
that.
stars align themselves just right, maybe I'll find a way to check out some sort of translation of the Silent Hill play
Black and white
novel.
version of The Mist
I've
makes
always
the
been
CG
interested
look
in
better.
that
I've
one
heard
because it
that.
has a lot of little side stories and more endings. And there are also little cell phone games and such that are Japan
Humbert
exclusive.
sounds like an old
If I can
car
dig
model.
up some info on those, that could
firing
be a
up the
subject
old
for a
Humbert.
video. And who knows, maybe Konami will sell off the franchise
Okay,
to some other
Watu,
company
thanks for
and more
stopping
Silent
by.
Hill games will eventually get made. And even if they don't, I can always do editorials that touch on specific themes in the series and stuff like that. For the most part, Silent Hill has been really good to me, and I'm not ready to cast it aside just yet, even if I only have a limited number of games to reference. And even though I don't consider this the end of my Silent Hill videos, I still get a certain feeling
It
of
almost was the end.
finality with this one. So while I'm at it, I want to thank everyone who has
Yes, I
kept
do
up with
ship
all these
Rarity and
videos.
Fancy Pants.
Sometimes it's been a serious pain trying to get these episodes done in time for October.
Spike, I've always
Hence
had
why
a
I had to settle
Rarity.
for putting
I
out
know.
a brief
I know, that
video
was so
about one of
cute.
the movies a couple times. But I like that Silent Hill in October ended up being kind of a tradition. Sometimes it was practically the only video I did that year. So if nothing else, it encouraged me to continue making videos, even if I had to start a few months early and power through overtime at work and other life stuff that got in the way. If nothing else, I would always get some kind of Silent Hill video done for you guys that year. Also, I learned a lot about the games while looking up info for these videos. How else was I going to find out that James was named after Jack the Ripper and that Silent Hill 4 was inspired by a weird book called Coin Locker Babies? And of course, there's also all the cool people I've had the chance to get in touch with who I wouldn't have otherwise.
Another one of those.
While I love hearing from people that I helped them
movies
get
I
into
was meant to
Silent Hill with
watch.
my videos, I got more into Silent Hill myself while making the videos for you guys. So in a way, it's
Silent
a
Hill
two-way
Arcade
street.
pretty much
But I just
recycles
want to say
previous
thank you for
environments and
sticking with me
monsters
so
except
far.
for the riverboat.
But I'm not done yet, so I hope
which
you'll
was an
continue
awesome
to stick
set
around
piece.
as
It
I
should have
find
been in
more
the mainline
Silent Hill
game,
related
yeah.
things to talk about. That's it for now. See you next time.
Rarity always just came across as being sweet to Spike, like you're an adorable and sweet boy, like a friendship, platonic way. Yeah. Like you treat a friend's little brother. Yeah, I guess that's pretty close to what I was thinking. Don't have to mute this one. This was the point where I finally wised up and stopped using game music during the credits. Dr. Seuss style children's book, Some Time to Kill in Silent Hill. I like that. I'm not ready to cast Silent Hill aside yet. About that. Yeah, I wasn't, but Konami was. If you really want to know what I thought of Silent Hills, I did talk about it in my podcast, recorded back when the game was still going to be made, which I'll link to at the end. More like in the comments section, but whatever, or description. It's not that I didn't love how the game looked, just talking about it, it's a little depressing at this point, and I just don't really see the point in going into it anymore. That's sad, but it's true. Oh, yeah, well, that was a downer. Hashtag Fuckonami. Wow, I had a lot to say in this one. In more amusing news, I'm now kicking myself for not noticing the similarities between Carrie and Alessa a lot sooner. I guess the age difference threw me. I have to go to the bathroom, but I'm gonna wait until this is over. I like this song. There was that one year that we all came together and Trowel made Halloween themed videos, and Channel Awesome is like, sure, have fun with that. We don't want to be involved.
How can you sit there and eat pizza? Monsters. They look like monsters.
Must be on drugs.
What the hell? You gotta be shitting me.
That was fun stringing together all those quotes. Where'd I leave off at? Shit. I had like selected some text on the chat and it got unselected. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'll be right back.
Oh, let me pet this kitty first. Let me pet this kitty. kitty.
Okay. Oh, God. There we are. The Witch was the most horrific movie you've ever seen. Interesting. Never left Silent Hill. It'd be like that sometimes. They really did make arcade shooters out of any... Oh, they really did make arcade shooters out of any franchise. I'll be skipping a Serbian film. Thank you very much. End of an era. Aww. Last movie I've seen... Actually, I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I thought it was pretty good. Dear gods, this is a good cover. It really is. I'm glad I discovered it. It's actually it's actually kind of a what's the term? Medley. It's a medley of a couple different Silent Hill songs. But I think I only let it play long enough that you only heard one of them. Everybody's talking about the witch. I'm gonna kind of skip over that a little bit. Oh yeah, the fan theories. This was a fun video to make, but fan backlash kind of ruined it a little. Thank God you didn't have to mention the comics. Yeah, I think after seeing Linkara cover them, if he hadn't, I might still be curious, but I know enough about the comics now. Silent Hill produces some good mandolin players. Little Hope? Oh, it had some Silent Hill elements and references. Soylent Hill. Miss the good old days of Channel Awesome, yeah. Pizza, it looks like pizza to you. Imagine if they announced a new Silent Hill game and it was a Hatches game. I'm not sure what that means. Channel awful, yeah. Eat my haunted pizza in peace. You annoyed me while I was on the stream. Now I annoy you while you're trying to nap. Pretty much. Yeah, I went over to pet Tara because, she was behind me all that time. And then I found out that I realized Soul was on the other part of the couch. So I got to pet both kitties. Silent Hill, isn't that the plot for Troll 2? Nilbog is Silent Hill spelled backwards. They make the slices look like tiny pyramid heads. After PS2, the Japanese horror game area ended. No haunted... I think you mean Haunting Ground, no Rule of Rose, no Clock Tower, no Siren. PS2 had such a strong horror game library. I don't know if I agree on Rule of Rose, but... She watched me for a few seconds and then went, why'd you wake me? And then put her head back down. That's funny. It's Terra Stream now. It's always Terra Stream. Watch out, the pizza's aggressive. I'm still waiting for my creative beerly. And in every story is a pachinko machine. House is sadly catless. Aw. A new clock tower would be cool. Japanese horror games on the PS2 were never really marketed much in the West and sold poorly. Yeah, I really liked Ghostbusters Afterlife. Ghostbusters 3. I don't think Ghostbusters 2 is that good, but it has its moments at least. If by 3 you mean the remake, well... It's kind of unnecessary, I thought. I haven't actually watched it, but I could tell by the trailers and the clips I've seen that it's not for me, but I'll probably watch it sometime out of curiosity. The Last Duel? Oh, I know what movie you're talking about. I liked Ghostbusters Afterlife a lot. It was kind of slow paced in the beginning, but man, once I was definitely sold by the time they got to the climax, if nothing else. But the whole thing was really good, I thought. Oh yeah, Nightcry was a so bad it's funny game. That was a bit of a letdown. Screw Christabella. Your true fans like this video and understand it was good fun. I know, I appreciate it. The only thing I can think of that was sort of a stand-in for Ghostbusters 3 was that Ghostbusters video game. But I don't know if that was what they meant or not. You're in Australia, yeah. Yeah, my answer was going on the assumption that they meant the reboot. Yeah, I'm not in any hurry to see that movie either. Like I said, I'll probably see it at some point out of curiosity, but I do plan one day I would like to make a video just about my problems with remakes in general. And that might be one to include. But I haven't seen it yet, so... The comics were just as incoherent as he made them look. My favorite Silent Hill track? Ooh. God damn. I don't know if I could pick a single one. One of the ones where Mary Elizabeth McGlynn sings on for sure. I really like the theme to Silent Hill 3, You're Not Here. And there was one on the Silent Hill 4 soundtrack that wasn't in the game, but it was just on the soundtrack. It was called Waiting for You. That might be one of my favorites also. Always pet Kitty, I know. In fact, I was petting her right before reading that. Fan Theories video, my body is ready. Had some charm, but was flawed. I can believe that. Rule of Rose has an interesting story, but the gameplay was bad. Yeah, and I don't know. I can't be afraid of children. Like the villains in that game were children, and like they weren't scary. I just didn't really get it. May have worked with a better director who was more focused on story instead of lame SNL jokes. Waste of a good cast. Yeah, that's kind of how it comes across to me, going by what I've seen. Plus, like, didn't he also direct Bridesmaids? And like, I know I'm probably in the minority, but I really didn't like Bridesmaids. Enemy Zero. I don't think I'm familiar with that one. Pizza Head. Shit, I lost track of where I was at again. There we are. Silent Hill is a gotcha game with microtransactions. Don't give them any ideas. The horror was the controls. There was kind of some unnecessary fan service in the new Ghostbusters movie, but I don't know, I just thought it was really fun. Pizza the Hut might send out for you. What'd you think of the Ghostbusters video game? I never actually got around to playing it. I always meant to. Every movie with a haunted painting is my type of movie. Bathtub scene in Ghostbusters 2 made you scared of baths when you were a kid. That's funny. Martian Gothic unification. I have not. Ghostbusters, a video game from 2010, is pretty much the third movie for all intents and purposes. Yeah, I've heard that. Oh yeah, Watership Down. I don't think I've ever seen The Last Unicorn, and I never did get around to seeing Return to Oz, but I want to now that after hearing about how dark it apparently was. Dan Aykroyd and Helen Ramis did write the game. Oh, that's cool. I don't think I knew that. Ghostbusters 2 is definitely flawed, but still enjoyable overall. Yeah, that's fair. Waiting for You is an amazing song. Oh yeah, Room of Angel is another good one. And Promise Reprise, of course. Oh, I'm behind. I guess Tara probably was making noise at some point. Who are you gonna call? He-Man! I remember that. That was funny. Looking at the Olsen house for 20 minutes now, and it's beautiful. That's cool. She directed the dub for Cowboy Bebop. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Oh, Theme of Laura is another good one. And Acceptance. Who are you gonna call those bastards? Oh yeah, Overdose Delusion is another one. Childbusters. God, I'm never gonna get caught up on the chat. It's the title of the movie and they still can't figure it out. Sweet Home. I know of the game. I don't think I knew it was based on a movie or vice versa. Either way, I've heard of the game. I remember once out for a walk in winter, everything dead quiet, a little bit of foggy air, and the Silent Hill theme starts up on my MP3 player. Oh, that's awesome. Enemy Zero was a Sega Saturn exclusive by Kenji Ino, though a PC port was recently released. Okay. I don't think I know of it. Yeah, Resident Evil was loosely based on Sweet Home. I think I heard that. I really didn't like Bridesmaids, My People. I felt bad too because like my best friend at the time showed it to me and he's like, "Oh, you got to watch this movie. It's really great. Hey, let's watch it now." And I'm like, "Cool, yeah." And I watched it and I was like cringing the whole time. I just didn't care for it. That scene where she like knocked over the giant cookie sign was funny, but like that was the only scene that really got a laugh out of me. She was like, "This fucking cookie." For some reason that got me, but like, yeah. They had a game to promote and it was that game later ended up turning into Resident Evil. That sounds right, I think. I think Resident Evil was based on it or was meant to be a sequel or something, but they changed it at some point. You mentioned you're interested in movies like Silent Hill and I want to recommend Let Us Pray. Oh yeah, I've heard of that one. The Hands Become Him. I have not seen that painting. Sweet Home, the movie, had a promotional Famicom game. Ah, that's considered to be the precursor to Resident Evil. Resident Evil being a copyright-friendly take on the NES game. Okay, there you go. I knew it was something like that, but I couldn't remember the details. Excuse me. I still question James's thought process when he acted clearly unstable and armed man if he's gone nuts. Yeah. Well, that's kind of one of James's issues. He doesn't always say the right thing. Vigo loved his purple prose. Broke the local rental shop's copy because you played it so much, I assume. That's interesting. That's one of those movies I know I probably should watch. I would probably like it, going by what I've heard. Return to Oz was seriously dark, yeah. I missed out on Return to Oz because I remember the critics all hated it, and I thought, okay, well, yeah, it probably sucks, and I just never watched it. And later I heard all this good stuff about it. So. Last Unicorn had Christopher Lee in a speaking role, and in the German version he speaks his German lines. Oh, that's cool. Last Unicorn, Return to Oz, and Labyrinth. It sounds like they'd go together. Oh, my Labyrinth video was pretty great, thank you. It's like one of my favorite movies of all time, so. It was a fun video to make. Chat, stop posting for a second, let her catch up. Okay, Ashtray, thanks for stopping by. I'm starting to skip over things just a little bit. Oh yeah, I loved Happy Death Day. I haven't seen the sequel though. Freaky I have not seen. I think I heard Freaky wasn't very good, but I don't remember who said that, so. Also want to ironically listen to the purely atmospheric track, like the wailing track that plays near the one hole. Not sure which soundtrack you're talking about. This is what I get for skipping over some of the comments. Well, I watched the new Resident Evil movie. Couldn't be worse. Yes, it could, actually. I don't know. It's pretty bad when horror movies come out in January. It's usually a really bad sign. I don't know. We'll see. I've heard some bad things already about it. Just because it's more accurate does not automatically mean it's going to be better. You guys are getting your hopes up a little too high, I think. I have not seen Hausu, but I've seen people talk about it. It looks interesting. Critics probably expected to be just like the original. Ironically, if it had been, they would have complained that it was just like the original. Yeah, probably. Yeah, Happy Death Day turned out to be really good. I was a little surprised. R.I.P. David Bowie, yeah. More faithful to the books, yeah. It seems that way. Oh, shut up about David Bowie's crotch, Jesus. You'd think that's all people ever noticed in that movie. David Bowie invented cosplay. Oh, that's cool. About the YouTube channel that has the Silent Hill-esque music. New Resident Evil is full of bad decision and comes off as on par with the last few films. Yeah, I think I've heard that too. Okay, I know you guys are joking, but seriously, if all you noticed about Labyrinth was David Bowie's crotch, I feel a little bad for you. Like, seriously, there was a lot of good stuff in that movie. At least the new Resident Evil games seemed fun, yeah. Maybe Resident Evil is one of those IPs that's cursed with terrible adaptations. Could be. I liked the first Resident Evil movie. I thought it was at least entertaining. It's better than the better than the Silent Hill movies. All right, let's start this fucking video. Fair enough, Kura.
This is Dina. Wow, it's been a while since I did a Silent Hill video, and after this one, you'll know why. I kid. Most of the people who post in the comments section are cool. But with how Silent Hill games basically encourage the players to analyze them, there's the occasional person who has a weird set theory
I like that
they
crotch
can't back
gazer.
up,
I'm gonna keep that in mind.
And they still refuse to let go of it. In some cases, there is literally straightforward evidence in the game to prove that they're wrong. And that's basically what this video is. I'll be taking 5 fan theories and doing my best to debunk them based on
Mortal
information
Kombat
in the
and Sonic
game
the
or in some
Hedgehog,
cases
definitely.
lack thereof. These aren't necessarily popular theories, but they're ones I've heard at least a couple times that rubbed me the wrong way for some reason. For the record, there's no reason why you're not allowed to have your own headcanon. I'm not trying to police your imagination or anything. What gets my dander up is when people treat their pet theories as fact and get into
I should have said it
arguments
got
with
my
people over
feckles
some
up.
full facts that they basically made up. But I'm going to avoid theories that are open-ended and could really go either way. I once got into it with a guy because he took Douglas's offhand comment about having been to Silent Hill on a missing persons case to mean that he was looking for James Sunderland.
Yep, I finally caught up with the chat.
Once, on a missing persons case. Never did find him.
I honestly think that the developers put that in to explain why Douglas knows
just
how to
because
get
of
to Silent Hill
circumcision.
and add a little exposition about what kind of place it is.
Yes, number one is about circumcision.
Screwed up town.
With him already being a private investigator, just adding that he had to look for someone there once is a really easy way to do that. Douglas doesn't say anything about the person except that it was a man who he never found. It could have just as easily been Dr. Kaufman or Eddie or even someone not mentioned in any games. I mean, the very nature of Silent Hill is that when people go there, they don't always make it out. And my
Yes,
point was
this
just
is
that
the
it doesn't have to
circumcision
be
video.
James. And he acted like, of course it was James, and it was silly of me to even question it. But in that case, there's nothing to say that it isn't James either, so that's not the sort of theory I'll be talking about. However, this guy is a good example of the sort of Silent Hill fan that gets on my nerves.
Yeah. Crotch
Speaking of
Gazer
things that
sounds
get
like a
on my
Star
nerves,
Trek ship
here's a
nobody
fan
wanted to have
theory
anything to
that
do
isn't
with.
really a theory so much as basically
There's
just a
no such
mistake
word
that
as
kind of
freckles.
grew into a common misconception. I feel like this one has kind of faded into obscurity, but since it's come up in my videos so many times that not mentioning it would be ignoring the elephant in the room,
Everybody's
we'll
waiting for
call
the
it an
last one,
honorable
apparently.
mention.
He was in a car accident, and he woke up to find that his daughter was missing. And now he has to trudge through this deserted town in the snow and—
It's not snow, it's ash.
Here we
I
go.
literally cannot say it in any other voice. Basically what happened is that the movie, which is a loose adaptation of the first game at best, has a bit where Rose, right after waking up in Silent Hill, sees what looks like snow and then realizes it's ash coming down from the sky. And I didn't mind that, actually. It's okay for an adaptation to have unique little details like that to set it apart from the source material a little. But what seemed to happen is that casual fans of the games maybe assumed that the game developers were involved somehow and the movie was expanding on the game's universe, or more likely it was just a Mandela effect where they just thought they remembered it also
Good
being
old
that way in the
Mandela
games.
effect.
However it happened, I had to put up with people correcting me on that for a while. There's no reason to think that it's anything other than regular snow in the game. The only time it's mentioned is when Kaufman comments that it's an odd time of year for it to be snowing.
And it's snowing out this time of year.
I mean, I guess you could apply some mental gymnastics to that to indicate that he's implying that it's not really snow, but however subtle Silent Hill can be, I really think they would have acknowledged it more clearly than that. Like, I really think Harry would have noticed
Nights at
early on
Freddy's?
that the snow didn't feel cold, and he would have made some
The
kind of
pizza was a lie
observation
all
about
along.
it. I actually thought this one died
Crotch
down
Gazer
until Shattered
2000
Memories
New
came out and
Dimension.
someone complained about the game mistakenly having snow when the original had ash.
Snow
so
and
who
ash.
knows, maybe it's still out there, but I've just been lucky enough to not have to hear about it over the last couple of years. If nothing else, hopefully Shattered Memories has
It could
caused
be
a
James.
Mandela
It
effect
just,
of its own
there's
to
nothing
correct
saying
what
that
the
it
movie
definitely is all I was
so
saying.
yeah,
And
I know
that
I
guy
talked
was
about
trying to
that one
argue
before,
with me.
but I don't think I ever officially addressed it. However, it's such a classic that I still occasionally joke about it.
Snow's supposed to stop.
If I'd seen the forecast, I wouldn't be here.
That's
I'd be
no
watching TV
ash.
from my
And
There
get
it is
teased by
again.
my colleagues. So without
That was Linkara. Hang on. That's
I'd be watching TV from my
and get teased.
No, but Dina, it's actually ashes from the coal mine. That's totally game canon and not the movie, LOL. And I posted Rarity with her eye twitching.
by my colleagues. So without further ado, here's my top 5 list of Silent Hill fan theories that are wrong.
Number 5.
Silent Hill 4 is a random game that has nothing to do with Silent Hill. They just slapped the name on it at the last minute because Konami didn't think it would sell otherwise, and that's why it sucks and isn't a real Silent Hill game. What the hell? Yep. 13 years after Silent Hill 4 came out, people still think this, still complain about it, and still use it as an excuse to hate the game.
Crotch gazer to
What
the
happened is that the
circumcision.
developers, in an early interview, made the mistake of mentioning as a kind of fun fact
It sounded like
that
Drew
when they
Beacon.
first came up with the idea of Silent Hill 4, they were going to call it Room 302, and it was going to be a spin-off of the series.
They're up and they're pointing
And
at you,
fans
buddy.
just kind of took this and ran away with it. The thing is, by the time they'd gotten to the 4th installment of the series, the games were beginning to stagnate, and the developers felt that Silent Hill 4 was a good time to try some new things. Some of those things worked and some didn't, but fans didn't like the changes and just kind of fabricated this story about how this was just some random game that Konami slapped the Silent Hill name onto because they didn't think anyone would want to play it otherwise.
Oh, that's just stupid.
Hell, when I did my
quote.
Game Den episode on Silent Hill 4, I did as
No,
much
that's
digging
just
as I
stupid.
could and could find no info about what the game was supposedly like before the name change. So I theorized that it must have happened very early in development.
The weather when she died
Well, since
could
then,
be.
more info has come out to further that point. More interviews with the developers have resurfaced where they
Silent
talk
Hill
about
Christmas
wanting to
game.
change the series. These are not things that people making
Here
an
we go
entirely
again.
different game would say. So I think it's pretty clear that the game was probably still in the planning stages when they decided it would be a Silent Hill game. The reason the game is different from the previous ones is not because it started off as
No,
something
it's
else.
ass.
If anything, it was the opposite. They wanted to take this existing franchise and try different things with it. It's fine
it
if you
was
don't
4
like
years
Silent
ago.
Hill 4. I know it's flawed, and I talked about those flaws in the Game Den video I did on it.
See, that sounds
so I'm
newer
not
to me
saying
than
that you
it
aren't allowed
feels.
to dislike it, but at least hate it for legitimate reasons, and please stop perpetuating this bullshit myth.
James always searched for
Number
Sal. Ash Ketchum.
Alex Shepard is gay.
You gotta be shitting me.
Now, I do get why theories
I got
like
some
this
flack
pop
for this,
up,
'cause I
even
think
not taking
people
yaoi
took
lovers
this the
into
wrong
account.
way.
There really isn't a lot of LGBTQ plus representation in media in general, let alone video games. So I think some people try to see it when it isn't there because they want to. This one is on Homecoming's Wild Mass Guessing page on TV Tropes, which already makes me take it with a grain of salt, because it also says Alex is the soldier from Team Fortress 2, and the whole series was Alex making up stories to entertain Josh. But I've heard it mentioned outside of there too, so for the kind of theory it is, I think it's fairly popular. Some reasons given are the fact that there are no
Terminator, I
pictures of
choose
him on the
you.
walls, his dad is heard telling his brother not to be like him.
It snows in late spring, early summer.
It basically
Interesting.
comes down to his parents don't accept him because he's gay. And that just doesn't really go with the rest of the story. Alex's parents treated him badly because they had chosen
Well, the thing
him
is,
to be
fan theories that are
sacrificed,
right aren't just
possibly even
theories,
before
are
he was
they? They're just
born.
facts.
It's like how farmers don't treat their livestock as pets. It's going to be a lot harder to kill something if you've grown attached to it. So they made it a point not to get attached to Alex. And
Yeah,
were
the movie
downright
did look
mean to
really
him.
good.
Kept him out of the family pictures and tried to turn Josh against him at one point. In fact, it makes sense that they'd want Josh to hate him too, because that'd make his sacrifice easier on Josh. Hell, they even convinced themselves that it was
The
also
headroom,
for
I know, that
Alex's
was
benefit.
crazy.
Like if he'd had a shitty life, he'd welcome death.
I had to make sure that he would never feel joy
Yeah, it is
or
definitely an
compassion.
official game.
All the things that make life worth living.
Pipe down terror watching
You must
horror games.
understand. I was only trying to make things easier for him.
Which is kind of bullshit, but it's a good example of how people can convince themselves of whatever they need to help them sleep
If it's
at night.
snow, then why can't you eat it?
I know some people don't like the twist at the end and think that if they were going to kill one of their kids, they'd be extra nice to the kid until then to make up for it. So Josh being the sacrifice makes more sense. And that would be poetic and all, but
I think
not
it's actually
very
Phalis who
realistic.
said that. I definitely disagree.
It just makes more sense that they're going to pick the method that's easier on themselves. Relatively speaking, of course.
Killing a person ain't no big deal.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's like that.
He took all
but
the
anyway, I got
Silent
a bit
Hill
off track
stuff
there.
in the room.
We've
It
already
could-
got all the
took out all the
explanation
Silent
we
Hill
need
stuff
for
and
Alex's parents to
out of the
treat
room.
him
It could make a
poorly
pretty good
and act like
standalone
he
movie.
doesn't
It would be
exist.
1408
Piling-
basically.
oh, and they also didn't like
So
that he's
kinda
gay
true.
on top of that would just kind of overcomplicate things. One guy also pointed out that smog is colorful, like a gay pride
You should see
flag.
the excuses people make
It is
for bad
unusually
writing
colorful
choices in
for a
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Silent Hill monster, but that's pushing it. I think the developers just wanted it to stand out a bit in the fog in an interesting way. I
See,
think
it
if a
feels like
Silent
more
Hill
than 4
game were
years to
trying
me is
show
what I was trying to say. I
homosexuality
think it
through
didn't come out
monster
right
designs,
because I was
the monsters
my
would be
attention
predominantly
was
phallic
divided.
shaped. Someone claims that the Schism's head looks like a penis. Whoever's penis you're basing that on should probably see a doctor. I mean, maybe the neck part looks kind of like a shaft, but the head is clearly meant to look like a pendulum, and when a heavy head is meant to
Alex
hang
is
down
the
from
soldier.
a
I
long
want to play
neck,
that
there's
game.
only so many ways the neck could look.
It's tropes,
I'm gonna call
yeah,
it
it's fun.
coincidence. Besides, we've got sexy faceless nurses in this game, and we all know that's become Silent Hill code for this man likes titties.
Thank you for using the TQ
so, I mean,
plus
if it
part
makes
of the
you feel better
acronym.
to
Yeah, I
think
try
that
to,
Alex is
you
gay,
know,
go nuts, I guess. Just
I try to
don't
keep
try
up
to
with this
argue
stuff.
that it's canon.
Number 3.
Yeah, just to be very clear, I didn't word it in the best way, but my point wasn't like, oh, Alex can't be gay because I don't want him to be gay because that would be bad to have a gay character or anything like that. I just meant that, like, the point I was trying to argue against was that Alex being gay is why his parents had issues with him, and, like, that was kind of the running thing behind the game, and, like, that's clearly not true. There's, like, other reasons for that. Okay, Death's Head, thanks for stopping by. But yeah, one of the reasons I turned off comments on this because I was starting to get people coming in and essentially implying I'm homophobic because I don't think Alex is gay or whatever. Like I said, there were parts of that I feel like maybe I could have worded a little better. But I didn't expect people to take it that way, so oops, sorry. I didn't expect people to take it that way at the time I did this, so. Gay protagonists in Silent Hill would be quite interesting, but they wouldn't have the guts, or at least no gay man, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in this day and age, maybe. I think we're getting to a point where there's a little more LGBT representation. Homecoming was a ride, I'll give it that. Yeah, definitely. Japan doesn't exactly have the best representation for their depiction of gay men. That's true. Of course, I mean, at this point, all Silent Hill games were being made in the US anyway, so. Oh, Japan. That was the shape they were going with. They were choices, and they said that's the shape we're looking for. The last schism head in the shop look. Yeah, gay female characters are a little more socially acceptable than male gay characters. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily trust the writers with that topic.
Pyramid Head isn't raping those monsters. That's just made up by perverted Americans.
Have you gone nuts?
To be fair, the perverted Americans bit was said by one person in one instance, but I just thought it was too funny to leave out.
Yeah, and anytime you
do
see lesbian characters, they're always like some male fantasy.
Because whoever wins, we lose. But let's not pretend that the Japanese are pure as the driven snow either, okay? But honestly, while the majority of the fandom accepts, and even sometimes disturbingly embraces, what's going on in these two scenes as rape, there's a small group
most
of
the
fans
Western
who
Silent
pop
Hill
up
games were
once
made
in a
either
while
in
and
the
just
UK or
flat out
Croatia.
deny it.
True.
This isn't really a theory so much as an argument I've seen people make. But for the record, I can understand
have one
not
of those
picking up on
stashed
it
in
at first,
Slack.
because I didn't. I mean, it is kind of vague looking, like you can see a lack of penetration here, and in the second scene, Pyramid Head's helmet is in the way.
That's true, Last of
it's
Us
hard
2
to
and
tell
Life
what's
is
going
Strange.
on. But anyway, when I first played the game, my mind just didn't go there. It wasn't until I read about it and went back and looked again and went, oh wow, that is what's happening. That's fucked up. I will also
Didn't the
admit that I
creator say he
couldn't
wasn't
find
supposed to be
any
raping that? I don't know, I haven't
confirmation
seen
this
that.
was definitely what the developers were going for, as in no interviews with them where that specific thing comes up. But Translated Memories does basically admit it. Mannequins are described as, quote, a manifestation of James's natural urges and inclinations. Accordingly, it's abused by Pyramid Head.
Just saying.
Now, they don't literally say rape there, but you're talking about a symbol of sexual urges and mentioning abuse because of that. I think they are saying that, but they're just being very delicate about the wording. I mean, let's look at the evidence. Pyramid Head symbolizes James's guilt.
Why can't we
One
just
thing
have
James
gay
feels
and
guilty
lesbian
about
characters
is the
as normal
sexual
and not have to call
frustration he
attention when
felt
it
while his
happens?
wife was sick, and how he probably had very unclean thoughts about
Yeah.
other women. One of those things symbolizing those other women are mannequins.
Then what the hell was Pyramid Head doing?
So
Exactly.
that
If he
explains
wasn't
this
doing
scene.
that, what was
And
he
I know
doing
it's
then?
vague looking, but I think they either did it that way because they
Denise.
wanted to not be too obvious about it, or maybe
Twister.
it was the only way to get it past the censors. I mean, their crotches line up and the mannequin is gyrating. Clearly this is meant to be sexual, at least in a symbolic way. In the case of lying figures, they represent sickness and therefore could be symbolizing Mary. Or with the straitjacket appearance, they could also symbolize James's mental anguish. If you go with the first one, again, this scene makes sense. Maybe this is meant to show that James thought about better times with his wife and simultaneously felt bad about thinking of her in that way while she was suffering. I know it's hard to see what's happening with the helmet being in the way. I thought it was pretty obvious that he was forcing this lying figure to go down on him. But looking again, I'm not sure it's really that obvious, since we can't see where the lying figure's head is. Either way, Pyramid Head is clearly grinding against it, and a pretty orgasmic moan is heard. So, again, there's definitely something sexual going on.
Looks like somebody has specific taste in entertainment.
Besides, it's not like sexual imagery is out of place in this game. Aside from the mannequins and nurses, both times Pyramid Head kills Maria on screen, he impales her with a spear, so that could be symbolic of penetration. And hell, have you seen Fukuro? Don't even tell me this isn't meant to be sexual. Then again, I guess it could all be in my head. Me being a perverted American and all. That's never gonna get old. In the end, though, I think the main reason this tickles me is the idea that someone would want to defend the virtue of this guy. How dare you accuse this man of sexual misconduct, good sir? He is indeed an upstanding citizen.
Number 2.
A mannequin with legs for a face certainly can't
Laura
consent.
isn't real. She's Mary's other alter ego.
Huh? Are you blind or something?
Yeah, I know there were 2 Silent Hill 2 theories in a row. Sorry
Walter
about
Sullivan
that.
and Pyramid Head are
I'm
both
kind of
gay.
putting these
I
in the
love
order of
that.
which
Just
ones
that.
bother me the
No
most,
explanation.
and
Just
the Pyramid Head one bothered me more than the Alex one, and
Make it
trust me,
Twister.
this one had to be number 2. This one is a bit personal along the lines of, it's ass. Because this is one where people tried to correct me and were really obnoxious about it. When I first uploaded my Game Den episodes on Silent Hill 2 to Channel Awesome back in the day when it was thatguywiththeglasses.com, someone posted a comment screaming at me for not including this, and another person agreed with them. How could you not mention that Laura is the other half of Mary's personality and symbolizes her innocence?
I like how the movement
Then they
pauses
accused me
when
of
I
not knowing
pause.
enough about Silent Hill and chastised me for not reading the Silent Hill wiki. Silly me, I had only been looking at a translation of the Book of Lost Memories, the official Bible of the first 3 Silent Hill games. What the fuck did I know, right? By the way, just to double check, I looked over Laura's page on the Silent Hill wiki a little while ago, and that's not mentioned on there anywhere, not even as a theory. At least not now, maybe it was there at the time and got deleted at some point. That kind of thing can happen on the Silent Hill wiki.
Who foreshadowing?
But seriously, my reaction to that was, what? I had never heard that before in my life, and the game literally disproves
Yeah, it does seem like Pyramid Head is
At first I thought it was just
overcompensating
those
for
2
something.
people, but then years later someone asked me if Laura was real. So I guess it is one of those theories that just kind of got around. I mean, all you have to do is watch the game's trailer in the
Americans.
beginning. Along with the clips of the cutscenes in the games, it shows a little more. We see Laura visiting Mary in the hospital, and we see Laura bumming a ride to Silent Hill from Eddie. We are literally shown that Laura's story about meeting Mary in the hospital is legit, and if you wondered how she got to Silent Hill, we're shown that too. I could just stop there. I mean, the game practically spells it out. There you go. But let's play
People
devil's
still argue
advocate
with me
for a
about
minute.
Laura even
Let's
after.
say
In the comment
developers
section
put
of
those
this
scenes
video,
in to
people
throw us
still
off
try
the
to argue
scent or
about
something.
Laura. I'm like,
I don't know why
I don't
they
know
would,
how to
but
make it any
whatever.
more obvious.
The only reason I can think of is that it is kind of weird that Laura keeps getting ahead of James despite his obstacles. Even the hotel where James had to get there by boat. Like, how did Laura get there? I can think of a couple responses to that.
I feel like
One
what you
is
saw,
just
remember to like
video
and
game
subscribe.
logic. I know we love to dig really deep into every aspect of a Silent Hill game, but it is still a game at the end of the day, and real-world logic doesn't have to apply in every case. And if that explanation feels like a cop-out,
That little
two
jailbreak
is
game from Downpour.
James is seeing his own personal version of Silent Hill with dead bodies and monsters, and that's what we're seeing. But when James mentions the monsters to Laura, she
He said
doesn't
it
know
was
what he's
rape and
talking
Twitter yelled,
about.
"You're wrong," at
This
him.
is because she doesn't see the monsters, meaning that she's seeing a different, non-corrupted version of Silent Hill. Maybe she doesn't experience any of the roadblocks that James does. Maybe
Yeah, I was
to
being a
her,
little bit
there's a bridge
nitpicky with the
leading
way
to
I
the
worded
hotel.
some of that, but
We
yeah.
don't know,
the
but ultimately
the
it doesn't
implication is
matter.
that it's
just a
nothing
detail.
sexual. That
Also, if the developers wanted us to think that Maria and
That
Laura
bothers me.
are
It just
two
doesn't
sides
seem
of the
right.
same coin, why would they treat them so differently? Maria is completely mysterious and doesn't tell James anything other than her name.
I don't look like a ghost, do I?
He doesn't figure out what she really is until the third time
Screw
she
the
gets
haters, my
killed.
videos are funny and awesome,
Laura doesn't
thank you.
tell James everything right away,
You didn't love Mary anyway.
but she does reveal that she knew
How dare I
Mary
not
and
mention
even
obscure
tells him
theory
where they
number
met.
5.
I was friends with Mary.
but my fan theories.
It was last year.
And relays a lot of what Mary said to her.
Me and Mary
Yeah, they do
talked
kinda
a
feel
lot
like
about
trailers.
Silent Hill. She even showed me all her pictures. She really wanted to come back. That's why I'm here.
Someone
And
in
she
the comments
mentions
of the
how old
Promised
she
Land
is.
who was convinced
I
that
turned
it
8
was
last
Rimmer
week.
in the Cat
And
Bible.
again,
Oh yeah, I
we know
remember
how
that.
she got to
That was
Silent
weird.
Hill. And speaking of the two characters being handled differently, have you ever noticed that it's kind of hinted at that only James can see Maria?
Silent
It
Hill
took me
2
a while to
lore
pick up on this,
edition,
but
the
notice
whole
that Maria
city
tends
just
to make herself
is
scarce
plain-
right
just
before
plain
James
normal.
runs into someone. In the hospital, she gets sick and has to lay down while James goes on without her for a while. And this happens shortly before
How do you know how
James
Pyramid
interacts
Head's
with
lawyer
Laura.
would see the video?
And that bit where James is about to go into a bowling alley and this exchange happens,
I'll wait here. I hate bowling.
I didn't come here to play, you know.
Hurry back.
it's not just Maria being comically assholish, though it is funny in one of my favorite lines from the game. If she goes into the bowling alley and Eddie can see that James has an invisible friend, that's going to break the illusion for James. And after that...
Did a little girl run out of here?
Yeah, she was too fast for me.
Isn't it interesting that Maria has to run after Laura and she ends up getting away? Presumably Maria called out to her, but Laura just kept running. Isn't that kind of an odd thing for Laura to do? She came to Silent Hill to find
God,
Mary,
someone in the
and then someone who
comment
looks
section thought, like, why would Laura respond to Maria? She only vaguely looks like the person she was came there to find. And I'm like, his own fucking wife confused them. What do you mean? What do you mean Maria only very vaguely looks like Mary? Sorry, I think I'm getting tired. I can't speak coherently anymore. It was foretold by gyromancy. How dare you not have mentioned my obscure, jumbled, nonsensical fan theory that is 500 pages long? Where did Eddie get his pizza? His own words is that everything was identical other than her clothes and hair. Yeah, exactly. It's a ghost pizza. Everyone can see Laura. She's obviously not real. Surprised that the pizza didn't break the illusion. Good point. Supposedly the hotel had burned down after James and Mary vacationed there, though I can't find a source. Assuming it's true, how is Laura able to see the place? It's been too long. I don't remember if I don't remember if I have a defense for that or not. I don't remember if we knew for sure if the hotel burned down. That might have just been how James was seeing it. James must be kind of hungry after emptying his stomach after his first encounter with Pyramid Head. Brahms delivers to Silent Hill. The little girl is a lie. Okay, Saw, thanks for stopping by. Okay.
And sounds just like Mary calls out to her and Laura runs away from her, kind of hints at the fact that Maria doesn't exist for Laura. However, in contrast, Laura is seen and heard conversing with Eddie in the bowling alley.
You're just a gutless fatso.
So yeah, Laura is a normal person. She was not created by the town.
Here it comes, you guys, the moment you've all been waiting for.
So here you go. If you did not already know about this one, you're gonna love it. So this one is kind of an odd duck, since I'm mostly covering fan theories that are at least somewhat popular, and this one was said by one person, and pretty much nobody agreed with it. But boy, is it ever a doozy. So even though it kind of doesn't go with the others, there's just no way I could leave out the Great Circumcision War of 2015. So basically, in December of 2015, a mod over on the Silent Hill wiki decided that Walter Sullivan had been circumcised, and so he edited the Walter Sullivan page so that it now had walls of text expressing anti-circumcision propaganda, with proof such as bloody forceps on a stretcher, phallic symbolism, syringes and pills, a restrained figure, and this is apparently a really big torso-shaped foreskin.
Whatever.
As I'm sure you can tell by my tone, I don't buy any of this.
That was my favorite one.
Stretchers,
Clearly this is meant to symbolize a
are in
foreskin.
nearly all of the Silent Hill games because these are things you find in a fucking hospital. And while the white stools do look kind of phallic, it's toadstools being shown here, but either way, I think they really are just meant to be fungus to show how damp and gross the water prison was. And if they symbolize anything else, it's probably a
culmination of all your videos, circumcision.
Attached. As for the greedy worm symbolizing a monstrous penis, do I really need to explain that it's meant to symbolize an umbilical cord? I mean, it's right there in the name. An umbilical cord is basically a feeding tube, hence greedy, as in wanting food. And literally anything he points out about Walter Sullivan's behavior that is supposed to be attributed to the trauma of having been circumcised could just as easily be attributed to the trauma of abandonment and abuse in general.
So it's foreskins.
So to call any of this proof of circumcision symbolism is really a stretch. Also, circumcision isn't really a thing in Japan where Silent Hill 4 was made.
I wonder if they're related. I do mention here that, oh god, what was the other one that well, it's going to come up at some point. He did post on some other game forums, too. Pyramid Head of the pizza delivery man. That'd be perfect. Phallic symbol, phallic symbol. Would almost find it more plausible for Angela to not be real, since unlike Laura, she doesn't interact with the other characters besides James. Yeah. Chain letter eviction notice, phallic symbol, the Grinch. What? I'm confused. There's such a thing as seeing something when there is nothing, yeah. The martyr was probably venting his clearly repressed anger at his own circumcision. I mean, it's the only reason I can think of.
So, I'm not saying they couldn't have an opinion on it, but it's not part of their culture and therefore not something that they really have to deal with on a personal level. So I don't see them making a huge statement
Silent Hill is all about exposing the atrocities of America.
Walter Sullivan was abandoned in his parents' apartment, so who was supposed to have told the hospital to perform a circumcision? Like, did Frank Sunderland just randomly hand them $200 and ask them to circumcise a kid that wasn't his and that he'd never see again? Would the hospital even allow that from someone who wasn't a parent?
Angela
Maybe
didn't
the
react
umbilical
to others
cord wasn't
was
the only thing he kept.
Trapped so
And
solidly
like I
in her
said
own
when I
world.
talked
Yeah, that
about the
makes sense
theory
too.
of Alex Shepard being gay, piling on that extra layer of, oh, and also he was circumcised, would just complicate things and take away from the main point. Anytime someone called him out on any of this, he'd go on a rant about how they're horrible for advocating circumcision, even though all any of them said is that it doesn't belong on a Silent Hill 4 wiki. Also, that they were a bunch of brainwashed sheep that needed to wake up. And anytime someone else would try to edit
Red
the page,
flags.
he'd change it back and block them. Oh, did I only mention that he was a mod? He was
Here we
also
go.
an administrator, so he had the ability to block anyone from editing the page, even the other mods. And he did. I have no idea what was going through this guy's head, other than
First
he's
sacrament
really
was Walter's
passionate about
manhood.
circumcision to the point of it being an unhealthy obsession.
Oh, live-action Grinch
Like,
movie,
did he
okay.
really think that this was gonna fly with people? Because the best way to get people to agree with your opinion is to scream it as loud as you can in as many places as possible? I wonder if he even believes that Silent Hill 4 has anything to
Dina
do with
red flag
circumcision,
gif.
or if he just made up all these connections to just have a place to spew all of his propaganda. I mean, I'm against declawing cats, but you don't see me editing the wiki to say that the cat in Henry's fridge symbolizes a cat he had when he was little and his parents got declawed, and the mournful meowing the cat made symbolizes its pain at having to dig in the litter box afterwards because of the evils of humanity. This is something that the Japanese totally care about, and if you disagree with that theory, you hate animals, blah, 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 wake up, you sheep. But yeah, I normally try to avoid internet drama, but this was a train wreck that I could not look away from.
That vegan
the
teacher,
guy eventually
oh my.
expanded his ranting about
I don't know about
circumcision
that,
to the
but I'm
Illuminati
guessing it's
being
bad.
behind it for some reason, and Christianity is secretly about Satan worshipping. Like, the rabbit hole just kept
I mean, for
getting
what it's
deeper
worth,
and
I
deeper.
actually am against
I'm not gonna
circumcision.
go
I
into
just
too
think
much
there's a
more
time and a
detail
place
because
to
it got
talk about
all
it, you
over the
know.
internet, and it's really easy
Silent
to
Hill
find
Wiki
info on
isn't
it.
a place to
I'll
bring it
link
up.
to a site that basically told the whole story through a series of tweets someone made, which is loaded with
Oh, welcome back,
screenshots,
Mr.
some of which I
Roboto.
used here. But my favorite part was when someone shared this with Jeremy Blaustein, who is the translator and localization coordinator of Silent Hill 2 through 4, and
What
he
the hell?
responded, "What the fuck?" and then later added, "I can only conclude that he thought an umbilicus meant a foreskin." By the way, it wasn't just Silent Hill 4. He also
we
added
go.
circumcision to Alex Shepard's origin. Because of course his
Oh,
parents
right.
are going to blow $200 on unnecessary surgery for a kid they plan on sacrificing later. And it wasn't just Silent Hill in general either. Apparently Xenosaga is also all about
Xenosaga,
circumcision.
okay.
So what ended up happening was that because he was an
That was the other
administrator,
game, I
they had to
couldn't
hold a
remember.
poll asking for everyone with an account to weigh in on whether they were in favor of or opposed to having him remain an administrator. So I made an account just to post my 2 cents. The first and so far the only time I ever posted to that community.
I named my
He did
account
end up getting
Cybercats Go.
blocked, but apparently he was allowed back in with only mod status about 3 months later. Take that info how you want. Well, there you go. 5 fan theories fully debunked, whether they needed to be or not. And if you're one of the people who believed one of the above theories or even
go all
posted
Pizzagate
it, I
on
hope
those.
you didn't take any of this personally. The main reason I didn't dig up screenshots of the specific comments,
I think mostly
with the
you missed me
exception of
talking
number
about
1,
the
of
first
course,
game.
But that's a special case.
It was
Because
Invader
the point
Zim
is to
reference
not
again.
make this personal or call anyone out and just focus on the theories themselves.
Cat in the Locker
yes,
was
I am
about
passionate
declawing
about
cats.
some of these, and I probably sound angry and
Cat theory
frustrated.
legit.
And clearly I had some fun with this, but again, it's nothing personal. If anything, it's a major berserk button for me when misinformation gets spread.
We all
and
know
it
that
tends to
Japan and
set me
America are
off.
at war over
You can imagine how
circumcision.
often I get angry on Tumblr.
Cat
But
theory
it's
is
the
pretty
action
sound.
that bothers me. 9 times out of 10, I didn't even remember who said it, only that it was said. So this was my first Silent Hill video that was not a retrospective of a specific game. Well, other than that end of an era video I did, but that was an intro to the post-Team Silent games. I have other list videos in mind, along with
Douglas's
some editorial
missing
type
persons
videos.
case was to find
but
Walter's
if there's anything
foreskin.
in particular about the Silent Hill series you'd like me to talk about, let me know in the comments. That's it for now.
Guy
See
clearly
you
thinks
next
about
time.
foreskins too much. Indeed. Yeah, this is the same song I used in the credits of the last video, except I think this is a different part of it. I love how we went want proof and suddenly started talking about Christianity is all about Satan worshipping. Oops, I forgot to. God damn it, what's wrong with me? I zoned out there. There we go. I definitely got a lot of use out of the "you gotta be shitting me" clip this time around. Hashtag fuckanami just because, and thank God for Jim fucking Sterling's son. Combined two Jim Sterling memes in that one sentence. That was pretty impressive. I mean, if I'm going to keep using that hashtag, I may as well credit the guy who came up with it. Or, well, this video was from 4 years ago. The person who came up with it is what I would say now. I think when I first heard the hashtag fuckanami, the fuckanami hashtag, I don't think I knew where it came from. I just heard people saying it, so I picked it up. And then I discovered Jimquisition. Cybercat equals 15% better than normal cat. Screw that circumcision guy.
As I was editing this video, I noticed he's been blocked again. Maybe by the time you see this, he'll go back to being unblocked.
Yep.
Who knows?
Must be on drugs.
Must be on drugs indeed. I'm going to turn this volume back down while I'm thinking about it. Cybercat Go is a good title. I actually kicked around the idea when I saw Teen Titans Go. I didn't hate it as much as other people did, but I do think Cartoon Network was showing it too often. But I thought about doing a comic strip called Cybercats Go, but I never actually did it. But I still have my Tumblr named that. Thing is, he'd probably have a better case on Xenogears due to how weird that game is. Xenosaga being about circumcision makes more sense than the game's actual plot. I don't know that much about Xenosaga, but... I remember having to ban him or someone a lot like him from FetLife. He was so bad he couldn't even stay on topic on a site where it would be well on topic. I personally think that it should be done with the person's consent. Only exception I'll allow is if a child that needs the procedure or legitimate health reasons. Yeah, that's what I think too. I think performing unnecessary surgery on infants, it's pretty messed up. Why are you saying James and Harry Mason? I don't know what the context is here, other than Silent Hill. Xenosaga was foretold by gyromancy. God damn it. Yeah, that is a nice guitar. Remember me and your true self, also Walter's foreskin. I believe it came from Jimquisition. Hashtag fuckinami, I mean. Yeah, Stephanie Sterling is awesome. I hate it, but I also 100% admit that it's personal and it has great points for a lot of people. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm probably just being dumb. I don't know if he's on drugs, but I think he could use some. Yeah, I mean, I understand why people don't like Teen Titans Go. I think it helps, for me, it helps that I didn't really watch the original Teen Titans that much, so I just thought Teen Titans Go was kind of silly and mildly entertaining. Yeah, probably better than the Titans live-action series. How is my Second Life avatar? That's a weird question. Oh, if I play Second Life. You know what? I only played Second Life for like 5 minutes. I did throw together some kind of avatar that vaguely looked like me, but... God, that was so long ago. I don't even remember how long ago that was. Dahlia was foretold by gyromancy about circumcision, but we didn't listen. Oh, God. I wouldn't hate Teen Titans Go so much if Cartoon Network would stop shilling it out so goddamn much. I know, it's ridiculous how often they show it, or used to. I don't know if they still show it that much, but... It felt like it was on all the fucking time for a while. Who is the first person to look at a child's dinky and say, this child shall be purified if we cut that part off? It's pretty weird. Gyromancy is the act of diving the future by spinning in circles until you're dizzy. Imagine Dahlia spinning around predicting the future. I know. Yeah, the bit about gyromancy didn't become funny until I was told about that. Never read the original Teen Titans comics. You heard Titans live action was very good? I'm surprised. It looked pretty bad by the trailers. Shame that the only way kids with only the latest gem console could experience Silent Hills with HD collection, yeah. Yeah, they need to just re-release them the way they were. Couldn't get Second Life to even run. I remember the trailer I saw for it was pretty stupid. It looked all dark and edgy, and somebody brought up Batman to Robin, and Robin was like, "Fuck Batman," or something like that. I'm like, okay, this looks like crap. I was shocked that it was still on. I noticed it was still on recently, and I was shocked. The SpongeBob schedule tactic. Dinky Winky, the new Teletubby. Ugh. It's like a Ouija board, but you're the planchette. Will there be more Dina tonight? This is it. This is my last Silent Hill video I ever made. I am sort of contemplating maybe doing that video about the in-water ending I talked about. I don't know. It might be kind of dated. I don't know if there's still a lot of people out there who like the in-water ending, so it might be pointless. But I don't know. I'm sort of contemplating it. Oh, legal, yeah. It's recommending me games, videos I've already watched. What's this one with James on it? It's probably mine. Yeah. Oh, no. The Gaming Brit Show? Interesting. Titans live action was very poor. Tried Doom Patrol. That was very entertaining and funny. Caffeine-omancy. Anyone else sick of DC's obsession with grimdark? I am. Granted, I didn't watch most of those movies, but I just... Yeah, grimdark is old and tired. Claudia is the writer's answer to a version of Dahlia you could actually take seriously. Makes sense. Okay, Mr. Roboto, thanks for stopping by. In Water seems like the most plausible ending. I mean, maybe, but for fiction, I don't think it's a good ending. You have a suggestion for a work-from-home job you think I could do? Everything under the sun has made a comeback due to the pandemic, so if you do make the in-water ending video, I can promise it'll get hits. Yeah, I'm sure it would get a reasonable amount of hits. There's been a lot of Silent Hill content in the past 2 years. That's interesting. I would have thought people would have stopped talking about it by now. Grimdark has its place, and its place is not everything, you guys. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Grimdark comic book movies are kind of... I feel like they've kind of had their time. I feel like the Marvel movies has shown that everything doesn't have to be grimdark, and it can still be good. And DC's like digging in their heels going, no! Oh, well... I disagree with you on being sick of Marvel movies, but to each their own. Pyramid Head's new fitness DVD, Gyromancy for Beginners. Holy crap, it's nearly 6 o'clock. Damn, I didn't mean to go a whole hour over. Got over 2 hours without anyone making, "Hello, my name is Ray a Tickle" joke. It's been a fun ride these last few weeks. Thank you for giving us to us. Yeah, thanks for watching and everything, you guys. I'm surprised at how many views and how much people seem to have liked this. Pyramid Head trying to keep his headband on. Yeah, see, Grimdark My Little Pony was kind of interesting. Would gyromancy for beginners be a spin class? Okay, I need to, putting a spin on it. Okay, I'm definitely gonna end the stream now. You killed the stream poll. It was fun. I don't know what to do next week. I might just do a chat video. I don't know yet. And yeah, I should be back on Twitch on Mondays. I still haven't heard anything about that job, so it's definitely not starting Monday. So I should be streaming on Twitch the usual days. Probably continue playing Oxygen Not Included for those streams. Dinosaur. Okay, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Lee, where the hell is my beer? She's spinning around violently on the spot. Inscription. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. That sounds familiar. Has Markiplier been playing that? I think Markiplier's been playing that game. What other old videos could you react to? Oh yeah, actually I was thinking maybe my non-Silent Hill game dens. There aren't very many, but it's a thought. Okay. Bye, Squid. Trying to remember how to end this. I think I hit this button first. Okay, everybody, that's it for now. See you next time. Thanks for joining.